Joye is suing 60-year-old painting company president Bill McCracken for the cost to replace 2 coats and a sweater. Ayodiji says they were ruined because of his company's negligence.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 369 on the calendar in the matter of Ola Joye versus Pacific Painting. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Miss Olandula Joye, according to your complaint, you live in an apartment.
I do.
The defendant owns a contracting company, a painting contracting company, and his company painted the complex where you live. You came home one evening, there were no wet paint signs out, and some of your clothing was damaged.
That's correct.
In addition to the value of the property that was ruined, which was several $100s, you're suing the defendant for $5,000 because you claim that as a result of your not having your property because there was paint on it, you became ill, you got a cold, you got a pneumonia, and you want him to be responsible for all of your illness as a result of not having your coat, right? That's what you say.
That's what I said. But what I want him to be responsible for is for their actions.
Well, responsible for the actions means paying for the property. It doesn't mean paying your foolishness if you don't go out and put on a sweater, madam. You understand that?
I do.
Good. Well, I'm glad we understand that right now. I'm not entertaining that part of your lawsuit which seeks reimbursement for your cold or sore throat.
No problem.
If you're cold, good, you put on a sweater. Either with or without paint. Okay, when did this happen?
December 16th, a year ago.
When were you first notified, sir, that there was damage to her property?
We received a letter in which she pointed out what had happened. The exact date, I don't know. We could not find the letter, but it was, to my recollection, it was sometime in springtime, I believe, when we finally did receive the letter. There was no return address and no telephone number for us to contact her.
That seems sort of irresponsible of her to send you a letter of complaint without giving you an inkling about how she could be contacted, sir, so I tend to disbelieve that.
Okay.
Since you don't have the letter, I tend to disbelieve that this very intelligent young woman would just write you a kvetch letter so that it would make her feel better. What she was doing is saying, I want to be reimbursed for my property. I tried to have it cleaned, which you say you did, couldn't be cleaned, and I want you to reimburse me for the property if you can find me. You got it? Okay.
Yes.
You have a copy of the letter?
Yes, I do.
Come and see it, please. It's a copy of the letter that you cannot produce since there was no way of contacting her. You did nothing.
She contacted us.
But you did nothing.
We did nothing.
And then she contacted you again, right?
Yes.
What did you do in response?
I said that I would, when I had time, I would come by and look at the articles of clothing.
Mm-hmm.
I did not. We were in the process of a reorganization, and I am now in a different company.
So you didn't do as you said you would do, which was to come over and take a look at the damaged goods?
I didn't. Someone else did.
When?
Shortly thereafter, perhaps a month or so, I'm not sure, Your Honor, that Mr. Stephen Gelly, who I've brought as a witness, did go to her home and did pick up the coats.
Had she called you between the time you said you would go over and by the time Mr. Stephen Gelly went over? Had she called you again?
I believe she called one more time. I was not in.
She called one more time, probably at least, because she was frustrated because although you said you would go over there, you never did. Then she called again, and she got Mr. Stephen Gelly. So now she's really frustrated. She writes you a letter to which you do not respond. She calls you, you say, I'll be over. You don't come over. She waits to hear from you, she doesn't hear from you. She calls you again, and finally you send somebody else over. So you understand the frustration. That's not very good business, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Stephen Gelly goes over there, and according to what I've read in the complaint, you took her coats. Is that right?
Correct.
Step up. Now, on what date did you go over there?
I believe it was in May.
May.
It was in August. It was in August.
Was it that late? I knew it was in the warmer part of the year.
Okay. So you went over in August. He comes over and he gets the coats. And what did you do with the coats, sir?
Well, what I was going to do was the nylon...
No, don't tell me what you were going to do. What did you do?
Oh, I had a conversation with the plaintiff.
Yes, and you said you were going to take the coats and see if you could get them what?
This particular one, these did not look like they could be cleaned because they're a soft material, whereas this is a nylon shell, so it looked like it could be cleaned. We tried, and just as she had, it was not we were not able to clean them. The letter that she had, it was actually, I think, a fax that she had sent over as opposed to a letter. That was the first time I had seen it, was in August.
She sent you a fax. She sent you a fax.
Is that what it was?
Copy of which I have.
Right. And I asked her how much she thought the articles were worth, and she gave me the letter, and I read through it, and I'm going by memory. Again, I believe this one was $250, or $275, $250, and $200 for the sweater. And I don't know value of clothing, but the sweater itself was a Cambridge Classic, which I think is a standard brand from Mervyn's.
After you ascertained what you thought might be the value of the property, what did you do?
I wasn't able to ascertain it because...
So what did you do? After you weren't able to ascertain the value, what did you do?
There was nothing...
Did you call her?
No.
You didn't call her?
No.
Shh. Did somebody else call her?
No, I was still in the process of trying to ascertain what the value was.
How long did that take you?
Maybe a couple weeks that I had the clothing from the time that I first talked to her.
Okay, so you had the clothing for a couple of weeks. You're still trying to ascertain, and what happened?
She called me on probably a Wednesday, middle of the week, and said she would like to get this resolved. She was going on a trip. At that point, I didn't have an answer for her as to what the value was. The following Monday, she came into the office, and I think it was a Monday, and demanded that she talk to me right then. The secretary called me on a cell phone and said that she was there and wanted to talk to me. She left this on my voicemail. I called back when I got the message, and the plaintiff had left, and I subsequently had a voicemail from her. She was very, very angry.
Understandably.
Mm-hmm. And,
I waited in the office for 45 minutes.
Understandably very angry.
Yeah.
I want to know when somebody called her after she's made numerous attempts at contact. She has sent you a fax dated December 16th. She has called repeatedly and gotten absolutely no satisfaction. When, for the first time, did you call and make her an offer with regard to her jackets?
There was no offer made.
Why is that?
After she had left the office, like I said, the voicemail that I had gotten was very, very angry. She said, "This is not going to go down easy for you. I'm going to make this very difficult for you." At that point, I contacted the office. I said, "I'm not going to be able to ascertain the value of this. Go ahead and return her items, and I think the best thing to do is litigate this." Because
bad business.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Iodiji Oladunjoye says her clothes were ruined due to the negligence of painters working at her apartment complex. Bill McCracken, painting company president, says his men were not at fault.
Can I see the coats, please? I'm just trying to see the paint on
No, it's
this.
on the inside of the coat.
How did it get on the inside of the coat?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, who was wearing the coat?
I was wearing the coat and the sweater.
Who was wearing this?
My boyfriend was.
Where is he?
He's in the Navy. Can I finally say something, please?
Sure.
This has been going on for almost 8 months. If I really, really was bothered about the money, this was not about the money. But you don't just come to my house, promise me you're going to take care of my jackets, and deprive me of my property for almost 3 months with no call or anything like that. That's very bad business, and you stand here and want to criticize me?
Don't talk to him. Didn't I say that to him?
I'm sorry.
Somebody came to your house, a very nice gentleman came to your house, he takes your property, you don't hear from him for weeks.
That's stealing, actually.
No, it's not stealing. Don't make a, listen. Just like your cold isn't their problem,
Well,
your sore throat isn't their problem,
I think you should
because
do
there's
that.
nothing preventing you from wearing this
Not
jacket.
if they have the jackets. They did have the jackets with
Listen
them.
to me, Adam. You gave them the jackets.
I did.
Listen carefully to me. You gave them the jackets. You could have just as easily said to him, "You may look at it and see the paint,
I was
but I
naive.
do not have another winter jacket. I do not have anything else to keep me warm." Do you know what I'm saying to you?
I was
That's
naive.
not being-
He told me he was going to be back the next day.
There is not a naive bone in your body.
There.
You're
You'll
a
be
very
surprised.
smart. You're a very smart lady, but they engaged in business practices that are very, very stupid. The jacket clearly is an 80% down jacket. You estimate its value at approximately $250, which is very possible.
It is.
Which is very possible. This jacket is not worth $250. Your boyfriend's jacket.
Okay.
Would you agree or disagree with that? Take a look. Would you pay $250 for that jacket?
Not now. He will.
Not in this world.
Not in this world.
No.
Me neither. Shopping is something I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Then you can help.
So I would estimate that the value of this property, even new, would be no more than $350. And you are suing for substantially more than that, in addition to everything else, a little bit of aggravation. I think you're entitled to something for your aggravation, because I really believe that a merchant or a contractor has an obligation to respond immediately to a complaint and not allow a frustrating circumstance to continue, because there isn't a question in my mind that while these folks went about their business as they should have and conducted their contracting business and whatever else they had to do, every time you saw these clothes in your closet, you were aggravated because in your eyes you were being disrespected by these people because they were totally ignoring you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When we get a claim that is obviously exaggerated, then yes, we respond differently than to someone who appears to be reasonable.
They obviously thought I was going to roll over and not do anything about it, but I mean, people have to speak up for what they believe in and their rights and their property.
And now the next case.
All parties on Bishop versus Taylor. Step forward, please.
52-year-old marine engineer Graham Bishop is suing his ex-girlfriend, 47-year-old cosmetologist Linda Taylor, for an unpaid loan and for the return of furniture he claims she stole.
According to your complaint, the defendant with whom you became involved moved into your home.
Yes.
And there was a time during that period that she was in financial difficulty, according to you, and you loaned her $2,000 in two $1,000 checks.
Yes.
And then you went away on a business trip, traveled out of the country or out of the jurisdiction on business. She remained in your home.
Yes.
And then she contacted you and told you that since this was a new home that you had, she had a friend who was moving and had a whole house full of furniture that she thought would be wonderful in your house, and you sent her another check for $1,000 for that furniture.
Yes.
You came home from your business trip and you found no furniture in the house.
That's correct.
Then the relationship ended and she moved out.
Yes.
You want your money back.
Yes.
Ms. Taylor, on the other hand, said that you told her she should move in with you, you would fully support her. You sent her $1,000. Furniture came, it didn't look good in the house, so she sold it to her daughter for $600, and she gave you the check for $600. When did Miss Taylor move into your home?
She moved into my home in May, the night before I left to fly to Japan.
And under what circumstances did she move into the house?
She came to me and asked to borrow money.
What did she need the money for?
She said she needed it because she was going to school and having some financial difficulties. So I gave her the first check, which was $25.86 for $1,000. And on it in my handwriting when I gave it to her was personal loan.
I see it.
And then the second check is for the...
Personal loan was never on that check.
Just a second.
He has written that in.
No, that was on the check when I
No,
gave that to her.
Just a second, madam. I didn't ask you to interrupt. So you gave her these two checks, one
Yes.
April 24th, and then you sent her another check from
Yes,
Japan?
she requested for additional money by email, and I
Do you have the email?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please?
And then there was a further email where she had mentioned
Well,
that
let
she
me
had
read this one, sir.
Okay. The highlighted parts. The highlighted parts.
Yeah, well, you don't mind if I read the whole thing, do you?
No, go right ahead.
You said you had another email, sir?
Yes, she mentioned the fact that when I loaned her the money that she had a lawsuit that she would be...
Well, that I want to see, because so far...
No.
Because she said she will repay
Hey.
me at the bottom.
Let me just read it, sir.
With benefits.
She doesn't say anything about a loan here, sir?
Well, it's talking there about receiving her lawsuit, and I would reap
Just
the
a minute.
benefits in the bottom part of that. That's kind of reading between the lines.
Very much so.
Okay. Now what I'd like you to do, sir, is tell me about this furniture. How much did you send her
I
for the
sent her a
furniture?
check for $1,000.
And you don't deny that you received that check. That was
No.
a third check for $1,000.
Correct.
So what'd you do?
What
What'd
did
you
I
do? Yeah, what'd you
Okay,
do?
my friend was moving to the East Coast. She had just bought some brand new furniture in February, and she was going to be moving in the 1st of September. And I knew Graham needed some furniture in his house, so I emailed him and asked him if he wanted it. He said, yeah, go ahead and get it. And so I did. But then I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, and I did ask him, are you sure this is what really
Don't
is?
give me a whole big story, madam. He sent you $1,000 for furniture.
Okay.
Does he have his $1,000 back, or does he have the furniture?
It wasn't $1,000 for the furniture. He gave me extra.
You sent her other money?
Yes.
That's important.
Yes, I
Did
have.
you send her other money?
Yes, I sent her a check for $500 dated July 15th. I did another check for $500
Can I see that, please?
dated
Can I see
August
those?
1st.
Oh, that is very important, Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Your Honor, one thing you need to know is I was paying half of the rent at my apartment. I have a lease there until January. My daughter offered to pay half of the rent to
Is
stay
your daughter
there.
living in your apartment?
She,
Just as the answer is yes or no?
Yes, my daughter's
Good.
living there. She paid half the rent.
Well, she should have paid the whole rent if she was living there. She should have paid the whole rent.
Well, in 1 month she did.
Good. So stop giving me baloney. So he did send you other money just to live. Is that right?
Yes.
July 500, 15th, August 1st, 500, August 28th, 500. And you're not even asking for this back.
No, that's not an issue before this court.
Oh, Your Honor, he has another lawsuit going on there.
Not an issue before this
Yes.
court.
Oh, are you suing her someplace else for this
Yes.
money?
Yes,
for,
he
for the
is.
other money, yes.
Where?
In Vancouver, Washington, small claims court.
Really?
Yes.
And I did not
Well,
count it.
shh. Under what theory are you suing her for this money in the small claims court?
Well, I have other witnesses, but
What theory, sir?
that she has told somebody else that I was generously loaning the money to her while she was living in my house and going to school.
Are you telling me, sir, that these were loans also?
Yes.
No, Your Honor.
Shh. Hey, quiet. I would suggest, sir, you reissue your summons in that case. I'm dismissing this case without prejudice. You don't go to 2 different courts and waste 2 different courts' time, sir. What you do is you bring one lawsuit. You don't bring people to court 2 different days. That's absolutely ridiculous. Your case is dismissed without prejudice. We will reinstate it so that you can appear in your own jurisdiction. That's all.
Thank you.
Is suing his former friend, 24-year-old Stephen Raymond, for assaulting him after an argument about their wives.
Order. All rise. Yeah, it's case number 446 on the calendar in the matter of Quadra versus Raymond.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Quadra, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you. Defendant says that you initiated the confrontation. He was merely defending himself, and he has a counterclaim. And this all started because your 2 wives, who used to be best friends, are no longer best friends because somebody chose a wedding date that was the same as the wedding anniversary of the other woman. Who was getting married?
We were, Your Honor.
And the date that you selected was?
November 5th?
And that's your wedding anniversary?
Yes, it is.
So your wife, which is the wife? That would be you. Stand up. You got annoyed that they picked the same wedding date as your anniversary? Is that what happened?
I just simply said that we wouldn't be able to make it, and it ended up being a confrontation, yeah.
Well, you ended up not being able to make it because you were...
It was our anniversary.
And you were...
What do you mean?
Annoyed that you picked
yeah.
the same date.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yes.
Did you have plans for your wedding anniversary?
Yes, we did.
What were the plans?
We went to Palm Springs for the weekend.
What's your first name?
Tamara.
When did Tamara tell you what date she had selected?
I think about a month beforehand.
What did you say to her?
I said that we wouldn't be able to make it.
Is that all you said to her?
I think it went into more that...
Well, if you say to your good friend, I'm not going to be able to make the wedding, the natural response would be, why? If that's how it came down. And your response would have been...
I'm sorry we couldn't make it because it was our wedding anniversary. We already made plans.
Well, that could be a reasonable thing. And what did she say to you?
I'm sorry you couldn't make it. It just turned...
Why don't you tell me what happened to Tamara?
I had texted her
saying that we were getting married on November 5th, and she said that she was going to be out of town, so she can't make it. And I said, I'm sorry, you can't make it. And then that was pretty much all that was said that day, and then it just, the next day got really bad, and she started
Well,
sending...
tell me what happened the next day.
I had gone to get my dress, and when I was done getting my dress, she had texted me and asked, just being nice like a friend, and asking just details about the wedding, and then she started saying, why did I have to do it on her day? It's her wedding anniversary. And then she sent me a bunch of nasty text messages.
Nasty text messages that said what?
Saying that...
Do you have them?
Yes, I have all of them.
I'd like to see them, please.
Okay. I printed them all out because there's a lot on my phone. I don't know if you want to see my phone or...
I could look at the phone later, but I'd like to see
Okay.
them.
That's just some of them, Your Honor.
Well, it seems you both got pretty hot under the collar. Is that right?
Yes.
Hmm?
I don't have any of the text messages I sent her because my phone didn't save them.
I assume.
I pretty much said I was sorry that she can't make it, and I'm sorry, but we're not going to change the date.
And you didn't respond to any of these?
I responded to a few of them. I didn't write nearly as many text messages she sent me.
You're Stephen?
Yes.
Did you send these text messages to him?
Which text messages? I don't know what they are. Yes, I did.
Okay.
They're in response. I didn't print out the ones I have from him, but I have the ones from him on my phone.
Who initiated it?
David did, Your Honor.
What did he say to you? Read it to me.
The first text
And the time.
First one I got says...
what date?
It was October 15th at 5:23 p.m.
5:23.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what did he say to you on October 15th?
So do you know about the time Samantha cheated on you before you got married? Tell her to enjoy. That was the first one.
Why did you send that to him?
I was mad.
Mad at what?
At his wife harassing my wife.
You left that out of here.
I don't have those on my phone, Your Honor.
I understand that, but this October 15th was the same day you sent him a text, but you initiated the text because yours was before his.
I did not initiate it, Your Honor.
With him?
I did not.
Who initiated these text messages, you or Stephen?
The first text message was from me, Your Honor.
That's what I said. So your answer has to be, yes, ma'am. I initiated the text messages that were nasty, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you responded.
Yes, I did.
Nasty.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you sent one right after the other.
Well, no, there was, I mean...
Because his was at 6:46.
It went back
and then he had
forth.
another one at 6:47.
The next one I got from him was at 5:50.
What did he say at 5:50?
He said, so you want a girl who sleeps with everyone, good one, dumb, F word. You're always out there. You guys are funny. Don't worry. You guys will get it before long. See you soon.
And what time was that?
That was at 5:50 p.m., Your Honor.
So that there were 2 messages from you before he responded.
That's just some of the text messages, Your Honor. There's more than that.
That's all I have. I'm talking about from you.
I have more in my phone, Your Honor. I had to type them all up.
I want to know, did he respond to your first one before you sent him a second one?
Yes, he did.
Show me. I have 2 in the 5 o'clock hour. I don't have any from him until the 6 o'clock hour.
I actually don't, Your Honor. The first one is from him saying, who is this, Demira?
Who is what?
Who is this, Demira? Because...
What time and what date?
That was on October 15th at 6:44.
At 6:44. So
Correct.
you had sent him at least 2 nasty text messages before he responded.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this assault allegedly took place where?
At the bowling alley, Your Honor.
Tell me, you were at the bowling alley.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you guess how he knew you were at the bowling alley?
He knew because I've been bowling there for 2.5, 3 years, and he knows what day and time I bowl in there.
Is that how you knew?
No, Your Honor.
How did you know that he was at the bowling alley?
The next text message I have in my phone, received October 15th, 5:56 p.m., says, come to the bowling alley, tough guy.
That sound familiar?
Yes, ma'am.
How come you didn't tell me that?
I don't have those text messages that I
How
sent out.
come you didn't tell me that you told him after those vicious text messages? How come you didn't tell me that you invited him to come down to the bowling alley? Did you just forget about that?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Did you think that it was information that I wouldn't want to have, sir?
No, ma'am.
So now you tell me what happened when he came down to the bowling alley, because he was dumb enough to go down there.
Yes, Your Honor, I was.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's an idiot, and you're an idiot, and he's an idiot, and she's an idiot. And I didn't do 10 years of post-high school education to deal with 4 idiots.
And later today.
And what date were you divorced?
When was our final?
Our divorce was final November 16th, 2009.
Women know those things. Sometimes it's the most liberating date in their life.
Yes, it was.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Quadra former friend Stephen Raymond attacked him at a bowling alley after an argument about their wives. Stephen is countersuing for harassment and assault.
What happened when he got there, sir?
He showed up to the bowling alley. My sister-in-law and her mother were outside. He sent me a text message saying, you send your out to do your recon work. So I walked outside. As I walked outside...
Just a second. I'm just looking for that text message here.
Yeah.
It's not here.
I'll show you. Here it is, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it. Could you please show me his response to that, if any?
You won't be able to get that on the phone.
Oh, you can't get that on the phone. You can only get one way. Is that right?
Correct.
I don't know.
That hasn't been my experience.
You can get both.
As far as I know.
Did you erase yours?
No, it only keeps the last 100 sent messages out. So obviously, from the last 3 months, I've sent over more than 100 messages.
No, well, maybe you shouldn't send any. Okay, so now he comes down to the bowling alley, invited by you, and tell me what happened. Tell me how you got assaulted, sir.
I walked outside, and he came up to me and was right in front of my face.
What did you expect him to do after you told him all those things that you told him about his wife, called her names? What did you expect him to do when you invited him to come down to the bowling alley? What did you expect? Don't think. Just tell me, what did you expect?
I expected him to be cursing at me, which he was.
And?
And he got in my face, and I turned my face to the side, and I said, really? And when I turned to my side, he pushed me. And as he pushed me, I reached out because I grabbed his shirt. And when I grabbed his shirt is when he socked me in the face with his right hand.
Too bad. Whose fault is it?
Not mine, Your Honor.
Oh, sure it is. It's his, too. He was dumb enough to go there. You were dumb enough to invite him after instigating him to fight with you. What do you expect me to do about it? What do you expect me to do about it? Reward you for your bad behavior?
For my medical bills, Your Honor.
No, I'm not rewarding you for anything. You instigated a fight. You got the worst of the fight.
I didn't instigate it,
and now you
Your
want
Honor.
the court system to waste its time dealing with you.
I didn't instigate it, Your Honor.
Instigated it.
Before he showed up...
Instigated it.
He said he was going to show up at 9:30, so by that time I didn't think anything was going to happen because I was supposed to leave the bowling alley by 9:15. Bowling always gets over at 9:00.
You shouldn't have gone outside.
He invited me outside.
0.
He invited me outside.
Nothing. Nothing. You get nothing. You're an idiot. She's an idiot, and you're an idiot, and he's an idiot, and she's an idiot. And I didn't do 10 years of post-high school education to deal with 4 idiots over a wedding date. So if you got punched in the face and you got hurt, pay your own medical bills. And you have a counterclaim? You shouldn't have gone to the bowling alley.
I agree, Your Honor.
That's right. That's right. You shouldn't have responded to him. You shouldn't have gone. You should have said he's an idiot. My wife's a bit of an idiot. I'm not going to be an idiot. I'm smarter than that. But I'm certainly not going to go to the bowling alley to confront him because that's going to end up in trouble. And if you got socked around, which you say you did, and you got harassed, which you say you did, you've been doing it to each other.
He was never harassed or hit. In the police report, it said he was never hit.
You started it.
I did not.
I'm finishing it. Your case is dismissed. So is yours. Goodbye.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Him and his wife were harassing my wife.
He did attack me. He assaulted me first.
It's said and done, but...
I retaliated in self-defense.
It's not over.
And he cried about it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gallegos versus Peelman. Step forward.
Lisa Gallegos is suing her ex-husband, Matthew Peelman, for depositing a fraudulent check into a shared account and then withdrawing the money.
Ms. Gallegos, the defendant is your former husband.
Correct.
And it is your claim that before the divorce, but you only found out about it subsequent to the divorce, that he had deposited a check into a joint account that you had. The check turned out to be not a good check. He withdrew the money, and you are being charged for that amount.
Correct.
Some $3,000 some odd dollars, including fees. I'm not exactly sure what Mr. Peelman's defense is, but he sort of says you should have closed the account, and then you wouldn't have had this trouble. Is that your defense?
Your Honor, anything that she feels I owe her or owed her should have been taken care of in the divorce.
If she knew about it.
If I knew about it.
If she knew about it.
Yes,
You didn't know about it.
So now you want to talk to him? Go outside. On what date were you divorced?
When was our final?
Our divorce was final November 16th, 2009.
Women know those things.
Yes, Your Honor, they
Sometimes it's the most liberating date in their lives. They like to keep.
Yes, it was.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why did you use this account to deposit the check? Do you understand where I'm going, Mr. Peelman?
I do understand where you're coming from, Your Honor.
I'm glad you understand, because I didn't want you to think that they just keep me up here because I'm a pretty...
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Gallegos says ex-husband Matthew Peelman deposited a fraudulent check into a shared account.
Now, when did you separate?
We separated on March 14th, 2008.
And when you separated, Mr. Peelman, in March of '08, did you move out of the house or did your wife?
I guess she moved out.
Where did you go?
I went and I lived with a friend.
Are you asking me?
I went and I lived with my friend. I moved into my friend's house.
Did you stay in the marital home, Mr. Peelman?
For a short time.
How long?
Less than a month.
He's lying. We were living at his parents' house.
I moved out of our marital home after I found out that there was infidelity in the marriage.
Were you, in March of 2008, living with your parents, the two of you?
I moved in with my parents, yes.
We moved into his parents' house Thanksgiving weekend, November 2007.
I moved into my parents' house.
We moved in.
Shh. Don't.
Got it.
When was this check deposited, Mr. Peelman?
I want to say when the police came to my house to investigate this, they told me it was September of '08.
Don't tell me what they told you. Do you have the date it was deposited?
Correct.
I assume you
do.
have. Can I see it, please?
It's the copy of the check and the deposit slip.
Okay. All right. Now, Mr. Peelman, this is clearly your signature on the endorsement of the check and the deposit slip. The check is for $4,950. You took out $1,000, means you deposited $3,950 into this account. You agree with that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that was a good 6 months after you and the plaintiff had separated.
Yes, Your Honor.
What was that check for, Mr. Peelman?
Work I had done for a mortgage company.
He's lying.
Shh. Listen, if you say it again, I'm dismissing your case.
Okay,
Do you
I'm
understand? Now, you've been warned once, and I said it nicely once before, so the next time you're gone. You do understand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how much money did you take out of this account, sir, other than the $1,000?
I don't recall, Your Honor.
Do you have the information as to how much he withdrew on this check for $4,950?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Here's the bank statement, and on the second page, there's 2 debits.
What was this cash withdrawal from savings, $475? Whose withdrawal is that?
He was the only person using the account, Your Honor.
That was on 9/19.
Correct.
And this also went in on 9/19. So you started out with a beginning balance, sir, September 1st of $6. And you put in this check, which for some reason turned out to be a bad check. Why is that?
Why is it that I deposited or it turned out to be a bad check?
Yeah, why is it that it turned out to be a bad check?
Obviously, the company that wrote it to me didn't have sufficient funds.
Right. When were you notified of this balance?
I was notified when I went into the bank on December 31st, 2009.
Okay, so now I'd like you to explain to me, sir, if you took out the money, your check turned out to be a bad check. That I understand. But now you got the benefit from the money. Do you understand?
I do.
You paid your bills, you put food in your belly, you paid rent, you paid your insurance. Whatever you did with that money, I'd like you to explain to me why you believe that the plaintiff should be responsible for paying back that money.
As I put it, Your Honor, is as far as finding out what a year and a half later that an account is in the negative by walking into the bank, Any accounts I have at any bank, they send mail every month. And especially if it goes into a negative status, they're sending mail weekly. I was never notified by her. I was not receiving the statements from the bank.
Listen to me, sir. Why did you use this account to deposit the check? Mr. Peelman, that's the only real activity in this account. You deposited this check. You don't look like a bum. So it's clear to me that you have some other banking institution with whom you do regular business, because there's nothing else on this account but the deposit of this, what turned out to be bad check, and your withdrawals practically simultaneously depositing it. Do you understand where I'm going, Mr. Peelman?
I do understand where you're coming from, Your Honor.
I'm glad you understand, because I didn't want you to think that they just keep me up here because I'm a pretty face.
I don't.
Do you understand?
I do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
So explain to me why you deposited the check in this particular account.
It was the most convenient account for me to use at the time.
No, well, that's ridiculous. Why would it be the most convenient account for you to use, sir, when you have another checking account?
I had just closed my other checking account.
Want to tell me why, sir?
Both of our names are on it.
Both of your names were on this one.
It's the last account.
No. You find out that your wife is cheating on you, which is what you intimated before, and that's 6 months before. You close out that account within a millisecond. You don't let it go for 6 months unless you're going to give her a good... We understand each other, Mr. Peelman? I got you. I know exactly what you did. Precisely. You owe $3,700. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Student Ben Ahrens is suing 18-year-old college football player Brian Payton for beating him up during a night of heavy drinking. Adam Spear has a separate lawsuit against Ben Ahrens for vandalism to his car.
Yeah, this is case number 50 on the calendar, the matter of Ahrens versus Payton. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. You folks have a seat, please.
All right, Mr. Ahrens, it is your claim that Mr. Payton assaulted you.
Correct.
There is sort of a companion case here that I will address either during this case or at some point immediately after, involving a Mr. Spear. Is that you?
That's correct.
And you weren't actually there during the course of this whole event, but you allege your car got damaged by Mr. Ahrens while he was drunk. When did this assault take place, sir?
The assault itself occurred at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was with my friends.
I need a date, sir.
December 18th.
12/18/04.
Correct.
Where were you?
I was in the parking lot of the Hilton Hotel, located in Corvallis, Oregon.
What were you doing there?
My friend had a party right next door. It was his birthday party.
And what time had you arrived at the party?
10 o'clock.
How many people were there?
Roughly 8.
A lot of drinking.
Yes, we were all over 21.
I didn't ask how old you were. I said there was a lot of drinking.
Yes, there was a lot of drinking.
What were you drinking then?
I was drinking Miller Lite.
Nothing other than beer.
Correct.
And what happens?
We were outside, out front. There's a fence separating his house and the parking lot. And we were out front there. I was with my friends, Jason. Well, they're actually acquaintances. About 3 girls came out of the Hilton Hotel. At that point, we called over to them to come over and talk to us. So they came over to where we were.
What did you say to them?
I don't exactly remember exactly what we said, but we said, hi, what's going on tonight? What are you guys doing at the Hilton? At that point, approximately 3 to 4 men came out of the hotel and immediately came over to where we were. Mr. Payton targeted me specifically, and he started going after me. I could tell he wanted to fight. He was very aggressive towards me.
Well, tell me what he did, sir.
He said as soon as he came out of the hotel, he said that he saw me looking at him and saluting in a Hitler-like way. I don't know what he was talking about.
Do you know what he's talking about, Mr. Payton?
I know exactly what he's talking about.
What is he talking about, Mr. Payton?
When I walked out of the hotel, we walked over to the young ladies, and they seemed upset, so I walked over and asked him to stop, and he was on the other side of the fence, and he gave me one of those.
Can I interject at this point?
What were you doing at the Hilton Hotel that evening?
The dorms were closed at our university, and I was staying there for a school function.
Okay. And what time had you started drinking that night?
I'm 18 now. I didn't drink.
Okay, Ben. So you're outside.
And I'm speaking with my friends. It becomes a verbal altercation at that point. So I came over to the fence.
So you jumped over the fence?
Correct, yes.
Why didn't you just go home like you were planning to go?
I wasn't planning on going home that night.
Well, what were you doing outside, Ben?
We were just out front of his house so that we didn't wake up his friends.
I don't understand that, Ben. You were outside because you were making too much noise to be inside?
That would be correct, yes. At that point, I explained to him what I was doing.
What did you mean you explained to him? What does that mean, I explained to him?
I told him, I repeated the motion of this. I told him that's the only thing I could have possibly done at that point when he came outside. I told him that. He said, okay, that's all right. And then we shook hands. We exchanged names. We asked them what they were doing, and they said they were going to go and get beer and food. So they got in their car, and they took off. They came back about 10 minutes later, maybe 15 minutes later, and we were still outside.
What were you doing outside, Ben?
We were just sitting on the curb. There's a curb. We were just sitting there. We were just talking amongst ourselves.
Go ahead.
The three girls that were with them, I believe they went straight into the hotel, or they went
didn't
to
want
the
to
entrance.
talk to you anymore.
I don't know if they didn't want to talk to us anymore, or if they were just
They didn't
back.
want to talk to you anymore. They went right inside.
They went inside.
Go ahead.
Peyton and his friends, they stayed with us out there, and we talked. And at that point, there became a verbal altercation between Mr. Peyton and one of the witnesses, Brown. And I believe it was over food. I believe he asked them if they brought him any food back.
Where is Mr. Brown?
Mr. Brown is unable to come.
So he's not a witness.
Okay.
Because
no.
he's not here.
Okay.
So Mr. Brown, one of your friends, asked Mr. Peyton...
Well, he wasn't my friend, he was my acquaintance.
Your acquaintance.
Correct.
On your curb.
Yes.
Asked Mr. Peyton how come they didn't bring him back any food.
Yes.
You think that was because Mr. Brown maybe had a little too much to drink?
Possibly, yes.
Keep going.
So at that point, there was a verbal altercation between him and Mr. Peyton, and I believe Jason might have gotten involved in it a little bit. At that point, I got up and I got in between them, and I pushed them aside, and then I'm not sure exactly what he did. That's about where my memory ends. Shortly after that point, it was because he had struck me to the face. I received a massive concussion. I have photos here if you'd like at this time. You can take a look at that. I fell back. I hit the concrete. I lost about 1.5 pints of blood. You can see my cheek there. It was possibly dislocated.
Looked like you fell back really hard.
Yes. At that point, I had a concussion. I do not remember anything from that point
Good.
on.
Now, Brian.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
Like you said, the young ladies did come out there.
Why don't we start with the young lady?
Oh, okay, then.
Because you weren't there. The young lady was there first. Is
Can I
that right?
interject at this point?
No.
Okay.
You came out at some point of the Hilton Hotel.
Yes. Ben and his friends were yelling at us, and...
What were they yelling?
To come over and, like, what were our names, and we could tell that they were very intoxicated. And then the boys came out and were like, these guys won't leave us alone. They keep yelling at us, and they're very intoxicated. And so I believe that Brian asked them to leave us alone.
Did you go out with Brian and his friends for some food?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a yes.
Yes.
What happened when you came back?
We got out of the car, and they started yelling and stuff like that, and then Ben started beating the car. And the car alarm...
Whose car was it?
Your
car. He started beating with what? With his fists?
Mm-hmm. And the car alarm was going off. All of us actually asked him numerous times to stop it, and he wouldn't. Brian went up to him to get him to stop, and Ben turned around really fast, and his fist came up, and so Brian obviously felt threatened if he was beating the car this much, and so Brian hit him, and he fell back on the ground and hit his head.
Okay. The police were called?
Yes.
You have the police report?
I have the police report. And
I'd like
is
to
there
see it,
something I
please.
could say? The police interviewed all the witnesses.
I'd like to see both police reports, and Ben, I can read. You don't have to tell me what it says.
Can I just point one out thing, though, please?
Yes?
They interviewed all the witnesses there, and they took down their names. Her name's nowhere in the police report.
Well, it may not be in the police report, but did they take down the names of the three girls who were...
No, they did not.
Well, so?
I don't recognize her at all. I'm not sure who she is. They interviewed everyone who was there at the time of the incident.
Listen to me. You were so blind drunk, not a question in my mind, that you wouldn't know her if she came up and bit you in the behind. You said there were three girls that came out. It's my job to ascertain who tells the truth and who lies. She told a very cogent story. There is no reason to say that she's lying about being one of the three girls that came out that night that spoke to you.
Why didn't the police interview her then?
I have no idea, sir. I have enough trouble figuring out why I'm here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We were drinking, him included. He started picking a fight. I can quote him on, I can kick 2 of your guys' right now. And,
Hands off your hips.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ben Aaron says, during a night of partying, he was assaulted by college football player Brian Payton. Brian says Ben was drunk and out of control. In a separate lawsuit, Adam Spear is suing Ben Aarons for denting his car.
How did you get the injuries to your hands, sir? How did you get the injuries?
I didn't have any injuries on my hands.
I noted that Mr. Aarons had injuries to both of his hands. He had abrasions and red marks on his fingers that were consistent with him striking something.
This is the photograph of the injury to my hands. This is the dent that my hands allegedly created.
That's one hand. I'll take a look at it. Absolutely.
If you look in the report, it says injuries to both hands.
Right.
If there is injury to both hands, you would see it. The only thing that photo shows is a red strap mark from where I was strapped into the stretcher. You can see that.
No. Police officer noted, sir, that there were massive dents on a car. That would be Mr. Spear's car. And the police officer said to you, did you strike that car? And you said, I don't remember. That was the answer that you gave to the police.
Correct.
Police also said that in addition to beer, you drank liquor.
Yes.
That's what you told the police.
Okay, yes.
You didn't remember to tell me that.
I'm sorry.
Police officer also noted that you and your friends were all drunk. Right?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Could I interject with one more thing, please? I have a medical report from when I was there. They did a full body analysis on me. There is nothing in there about any injury to my hands. The only thing I could have imagined that he would have seen is I have a medical injury.
Let me explain something to you, sir. You hit his car. You were drunk, and you fisted his car. You may not remember it, but that's what you did. That's what happens when you drink too much. Ben?
Allegedly, yes.
That's what happens when you drink too much, sir. You act goofy and stupid. You try to pick up girls that don't want to have anything to do with you. You hang around where you shouldn't be hanging around outside. And you act goofy and stupid. And you get yourself into trouble when you drink too much. Isn't that right?
Not entirely, no.
Well, you were acting goofy and stupid, too, according to the police report. All of his friends were drunk.
Oh, does it specify my name in there?
Were you at the party?
Yes, I was.
And you weren't drunk?
They didn't take individual
I
statements.
didn't ask you that question, sir. I said...
I was drinking, but I was not drunk, Your Honor. I'm here for a reason. I'm not his friend. I met him that night.
Good.
I'm here because I can remember things. Everybody else there was too wasted.
Why? She wasn't wasted.
Huh? I'm talking
This
at the party that we were there.
This young lady isn't wasted, sir.
And you know what? She also wasn't there at the moment of the assault.
Step up. Step up. Go ahead.
Kind of twisted that around a little bit. I'm not denying that he hit any car.
Good.
I didn't.
So let's start
Okay,
there.
let's start
there. He hit the car.
I did not see him hit the car, no.
Okay. So you weren't there the entire time?
No, I was outside most of the time. I was inside for maybe 3 minutes the whole time.
He was there when I actually got hit. And
I was there and witnessed the assault.
Let's hear it.
Let's hear it? Okay.
Take your hands off your hips.
We were standing there having drinks. His friends and him among us had beer. They brought a case of beer. We were drinking, him included. He, Mr. Payton, was pretty hot-headed the whole time. The moment he came up, he started picking a fight with me and Brown, who's not here today. I can quote him on, you guys are pretty stupid. I don't want to hang out with you guys. I don't want to sit here and drink with you. I'm going back to my hotel. I can kick 2 of your guys right now. That set me, who's pretty hot-headed, if you can't tell, and Brown off. We kind of got up in his face, and he did the same. Some words were said. That's when Ben said he came up and tried to break up the thing. He went back to the hotel for a while with the girls. We still hung out with his 2 other friends. He came back out. And
hands off your hips.
All right. He came back out. Some more words were said. Ben, at the time, was sitting on the curb drinking a beer. He stood up. Ben wasn't even looking at him. We were all talking. He walked over to Ben and cheap-shotted Ben in the jaw.
So after they left, instead of going back to the house, you stayed in the parking lot. Do you remember why?
It's a place to sit. We were there already. I can just stay where I want, I believe. It's not against the law.
I love it when it all comes together. Just let him talk. Right?
That's what you do best.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Payton.
Yes.
Here's your problem, sir. Your problem is the statement that you made to the police. And the sum and substance of that statement was that he was loud and obnoxious and drunk.
Yes.
And he kept hitting on Mr. Spears' car.
Correct.
And you told him to stop. And he walked away, and he came back, and he hit the car again. And then you hit him.
That's basically, yes, what happened. I didn't intentionally walk to him to hit him. Like, I came back around the vehicle because I walked through the back of the vehicle towards the Hilton.
Whatever. Let me tell you what you said to the police.
Okay.
Mr. Payton, you said to the police, I told him to knock it off. Mr. Payton said that he started to walk away twice, and each time Mr. Aarons began striking the vehicle again. Mr. Payton said that he told Mr. Aarons one last time to quit striking the vehicle, and when he failed to stop, he hit him.
Yeah.
I asked Mr. Payton how many times he hit Mr. Aarons, and he said twice. And that you struck him both times in the face.
Yes.
And you said you were shocked that he fell down because you didn't think you'd hit him that hard. Well, but he was drunk.
Yeah.
Now you can stand up. I'm going to hear this other case. You want to get that folder now because I don't have to hear it twice. I've just heard the facts of the case. This is Spear against Aarons.
Case number 49.
Very good. You have an estimate for the damage to your car?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please?
Would you like the court fees that it's been costing you?
No, just the damage to the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's Mr. Norris? Is he a friend of yours?
Yes.
Okay. Let me tell you what Mr. Norris told the police. It says in the police report, this is the interview. Mr. Norris stated that after Mr. Payton told Mr. Aarons 3 different times to stop hitting the car, he walked up and struck him in the face.
Yeah, I'm not denying that I hit him.
You can't do that. Brian, you can't do that. Now, do you have any unreimbursed medical bills, sir?
Yes, sir. Or ma'am.
Hand them up. These are all unreimbursed medical bills, is that right?
Correct.
You had no insurance.
My insurance was denied, yes. No insurance.
You go to school full time?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. You have a job?
No, ma'am.
You can't hit somebody because they're damaging property. He has over $5,000 in unreimbursed medical bills. You have to take care of that. I say this to you, sir, that I think you behaved badly that night, but for the fact that this young man had no right to hit you, believe me, you would leave here today without a judgment. But the law is clear. You cannot defend somebody else's property with physical violence. So I'm awarding you your judgment of $5,000. You are entitled to that. On your claim, I'm awarding you a judgment against Mr. Aarons for $1,500 so that you can fix your car. Anything you want to say to me?
I have right here a list of all the instances where people were hit by OSU football players in the past several months here. And I believe that this shows that there's a lot of animosity from athletes who are out of line and out of control. This happened at 3 a.m. past curfew.
Listen to me, sir. I have no particular axe to grind. I don't even like athletes. What I don't like are young people who get so drunk that they can't remember what's happened. According to the, I'm speaking, according to the police, according to the doctor, you reeked of alcohol, you had no memory of the assault because you were drunk. Because if you had had any kind of negative vibes with them during the course of the evening, and if you were sober, I can't believe you would be stupid enough to sit in the parking lot of the hotel where they were staying, not you. That's what you keep wanting to answer me, sir, and I'm telling you, that's what happens when you're drunk and stupid. Bad things happen. That doesn't mean he had the right to assault you. It just means that your actions, your purposeful actions in consuming too much alcohol was the proximate cause of all of these events that spiraled out of control that night. And if that's the way you can consume your alcohol, I suggest to you that you don't drink anymore. This case is over. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Person Angela Black and her stepfather, Ken Bauer, are suing Angela's ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old construction worker Justin Dino. Angela claims Justin damaged her car in a drunken rage.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 382 on the calendar in the matter of Black, Bauer versus Dino. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
You're her father?
Yes, ma'am.
You own the car, I assume.
It's a lease car. I co-signed with Angela.
Okay, but you don't know anything about this, other than what she told you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? You weren't there during the course of this incident.
No, I was not.
Why don't you have a seat? Miss Black, the defendant was your boyfriend.
Yes.
And according to you, in June of this year, you were at a party, and you claimed that he damaged your car. That's what you're suing for.
Right.
He acknowledges that at this party, or shortly after the party, he smashed out the windshield on your car, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your defense to that is that you believe her insurance paid for it.
I believe so. Yep.
And you have a counterclaim.
Yes.
Which I will get to in a minute. But let me ask you a couple of questions first. Were you her boyfriend in June of 2000?
Yeah.
You went to this party together?
Yes.
She picked you up in her car?
Yes, ma'am.
And had you been going out steadily until that point?
On and off for about 2 years.
So why don't you tell me what happened at this party in June? Because you claim that there is substantially more damage than the windshield that he did to the car.
We were leaving Winona, and I wanted to leave early. He didn't want to, so we started fighting at the party. Then we were driving in the car, and he was screaming and yelling. While I was driving, he was punching out the windows. He punched it probably about 30 times. The rearview mirror fell off. He was punching the dash. There's a big dent in the airbag on the dash. Punched the glove box. That's broken. And it was about a 45-minute drive. He did it the whole way home, was yelling and screaming. So Justin finally passed out in the car. We got to his house, and I ran in and got his other roommate while he was sleeping in the car. And his roommate came out. Me and him came out together. As we came out, Justin was standing up, urinating in my car, kicking my car doors. And that's when Joey came out and told him to get out of there, and then he just started yelling at me, screaming at me, calling me every other name. And then he said, "See you later." I left. I went home.
But then you went to another party with him.
No.
Yes, we did.
We went later that night. My friend Brianna came over and got me, and we went to the street dance, Rochester street dance. He was there. We didn't go together. Me and Brianna went together.
Had you discussed going to that party with him?
I knew that they were all going, him and his roommates. Everybody in Rochester goes. It's everybody. It's just a yearly thing.
I went home with her that night after that.
So you went to this Rochester street dance, and you met up with him. And what happened when you met up with him?
He was a little bit more calmed down. He said he was sorry. He was going to pay for my damages. And he said he wanted to talk. So we left the street dance together, went to my house. We got to my house, and I told him that he was still too drunk. I didn't want to talk to him at that time. I wanted to wait till the next day. He still was yelling and screaming.
You mean you couldn't tell that he was drunk when you met up with him at the dance?
You know, I should have, but no, I couldn't. He was at the dance.
Because she was drunk, too.
Shh. I'm going to get to you in a minute. So you exercised a lot of bad judgment.
Right. Yes.
Because if he's drunk as a skunk a couple of hours before, you don't put him in your car again.
Right.
Did you drive a different car or the same car?
The same car.
With a busted out windshield?
Yeah, another mistake.
Were your parents home?
No, I didn't live with my parents. So then after that, when we went back from the street dance at my house, it was probably around midnight, 1 o'clock, he was yelling at me and screaming when we got home, so I locked him out of my bedroom door. He sat outside. That's when he was punching my walls, said that he was going to kill me, and he wanted to talk to me. I wouldn't let him in. I just let him out there still pounding. He passed out on the floor. The next morning, I brought him home, and then again, he said he was sorry. He was going to fix the damages. And we left it at that. We were fine at that point.
Let's hear it.
We were at the party. We were both been drinking all day. There was a bikini contest. She was in it. And she went to change. We all, Nelson, 2 of my other roommates, we talked to the girl that won the contest. I gave her a hug. Angie seen that. She got mad. We got in an argument. She was yelling at me, hit me. I got reports. She went to detox before when she hit me. The cops hauled her away. I got that report here, too, if you want to see it.
I do.
Okay. And then, you want that now? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Is this the only time in April of this year that you've been taken in for drinking?
Yeah.
The only time?
Yeah.
That's not true, Your Honor. She got pulled over, got a DUI, too, and she didn't have her license the whole time she was driving.
No, I did not.
When did you get pulled over for DUI?
That was way before summer, and I was never charged with it, ever.
You were pulled over
I got
for
the
a
police
DUI?
report right here that says she does not have her license, too.
And that was suspended, and I was not aware of that either.
Mr. Bauer, this was probably not a good idea to co-sign a leased car for your daughter. Sit
Yes,
down.
ma'am.
I have pictures of my car also and estimates and receipts of me paying for the windshield myself.
Okay, let me see it.
Pictures of the car. Okay.
It's a new one.
What?
Sorry.
She don't watch the show much, do she? Come on.
You have a receipt for the windshield?
Yep, right in here. After the second page.
$255?
And then the rear mirror was 15, which is on the third page. And then there's one for the glove box in there, which is $635 for the glove box and the airbag.
Well, what's wrong with the glove box and airbag?
He punched the airbag, and they have to replace the whole dash, and he punched the glove box.
Why do they have to replace the whole dash?
Because the airbag, they said the airbag's $635. He ruptured the airbag by punching in the dash.
I did not do that, Your Honor.
No? How'd you break the windshield?
I punched it
How many times did you punch it?
twice,
Maybe 3 times?
maybe 3.
Or maybe when you were punching the windshield, your hand accidentally slipped and you hit the dashboard?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so, but you were pretty drunk.
Yeah.
Good.
Your Honor,
What?
there was blood all over, there was urine from him, the cigarette burns, and the punch dash, and the mirror was punched not 2 or 3 times. Look at the pictures. They were punched about 20 times.
You have some responsibility here. Responsibility is you don't take somebody who is drunk in your car.
I learned my lesson.
Well, the two of you drink, and you were probably drinking yourself. You shouldn't have been driving a car in the first place, not with him or without him. Now let's get to your counterclaim, Mr. Dino. You say that in 1999 she stole $4,000 worth of checks of yours.
Checks and furniture and among other things, yes.
You were living together at the time.
Yeah, well, she moved out. She called me one day, it was a Thursday, and she wanted to come get the rest of her things out of the house. I said, that's fine. I said, come get it Saturday, I have to work tomorrow. So she knew that I was going to be at work, so she came there with a bunch of her friends from Winona and took a U-Haul and pretty much cleaned the place out. She took a $1,500 leather couch that we were paying for.
All right, well, this is all in 1999. You did nothing about this in 1999, and you continued to be her boyfriend.
I got
Listen to me.
reports right here.
Listen to me. You did nothing about this in 1999.
No, because I did not know that until I went to the bank. I did not know that she was writing all these checks out.
Well, when did you go to the bank, sir?
Went to the bank, and I filed an affidavit in, like, the 1st of January.
Just a minute. Are you saying to me that she forged your name to checks?
Yes,
Let me
ma'am.
see.
Right here, and here's...
Let me see.
My checks, and these are copies of all the ones that she wrote.
When did you move out of the residence that you were sharing?
December 23rd.
All of these checks were written before December the 23rd.
Yeah, I know, but she moved out November 15th.
These are all before she moved out, sir.
No, they were not, Your Honor.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a discrepancy between your statement and her statement, but there is some credibility that I must lend to her statement because you knew about these checks, according to you, in January of 2000.
Yeah.
And yet you chose to continue, despite the fact that, according to you, she stole $4,000 from you to be her boyfriend in June of 2000.
I know.
So what are you bothering me with this for now?
Because she's trying to claim that I did things to her car that I never did.
Oh, but you did. You broke her windshield.
Yeah, I know that.
And in all probability, while you were breaking her windshield, you pounded her airbag. And you don't remember that because you were drunk. What?
He also did more damage, Your Honor, than just the airbag, in that the police report and the estimates and the pictures show the cigarette burns and the blood And the urine in the car, he did that too.
And what about your daughter's responsibility, sir?
She wasn't urinating in the car. She wasn't punching the window.
She took a drunk in her car. Not once, but twice the same night.
I'm not for that, Your Honor, but it was her boyfriend. I mean, I'm not for that. I don't like that either. But it was her boyfriend.
You got to get real, sir. You got to get real. She took a drunk.
What was I supposed to do? I know. What was I supposed to do?
Not you. I'm not saying you're supposed to do anything. You're supposed to take the car back from her. Listen, you stand up here. What are you supposed to do? You take the car back from your daughter. That's what you do. When she's arrested in April and taken into custody for being intoxicated, so drunk that she couldn't see, by the police, because I have the police report, you say to her, sorry, darling, at your age, I'm not going to lease a car and be co-signer on that car until I'm satisfied that you are put your hand down, responsible enough to drive it. Clearly, you didn't do that. And clearly, what she did was she exercised bad judgment again, because the first party she went to, she was drinking. She put in somebody who was probably drinking more into the car. And not only that, but after he had done all of this damage to a car that your name is on, she took him home again. And you say to me, what was she supposed to do? It was her boyfriend? Get real, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $895. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Oh, your counterclaim's dismissed. It's nonsense.
Drinking, partying's our problem, pretty much.
I told her that I would pay for her windshield, and then she ran off to Boston with met a whole bunch of hockey players and everything else, so I never did.
And now the next case.
All parties on Jones versus Darling. Step forward, please.
53-year-old custodian Howard Jones is suing former friend, 42-year-old homemaker Sandra Darling, for money stolen from his safe. Sandra is countersuing for the return of a car and a television.
Mr. Jones, according to your complaint, you befriended the defendant and her children at a time when they were homeless, allowed them to stay in your home for a few days while she was awaiting some money so that she could move into an apartment. And it is your claim that while there, she stole money from a safe.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I believe that you claim it was some $3,700?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Darling says no way, and she has a counterclaim, which we will address in a moment. What makes you think she took your money?
She was the only one in my home at the time, Your Honor, her and her two boys.
How old are her children?
15 and 18, I think, Your Honor.
And what kind of a safe did you have, sir?
It's a small in-home safe, is all I can tell you. About so big.
Does it have a key?
Yes, it has a key and a tumbler to it. The key was kept in my nightstand by my bed. And since I was a bachelor, I had no problem leaving it there and knowing that it was going to be safe.
If you have a safe and it has a key, then you don't leave the key in the same room as the safe, because that defeats the purpose of a safe.
Yes.
You needed the key only after you had fixed the tumbler.
Right, Your Honor.
Did you give Miss Darling the combination to your safe?
No, like I said, it was on the last number, and all you needed to do was go and use the key to open it, go account.
So, not only do you have a tumbler that's a second stopgap for thieves, but you didn't use it.
Yes. I live alone, Your Honor.
No, you don't.
I found out the hard way.
You did, Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Now, did you take his money?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Jones, it's very unfortunate when you are rewarded for a kindness by having property missing, but you have to have some proof that this lady stole your money. And the fact that she was there isn't sufficient proof. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Miss Darling, you want to talk about your counterclaim?
Yes. Okay, at the time I met Mr. Jones, I was homeless, living between hotels. My kids was in one place, so he kind of helped me. We came involved with each other. So when I went into the shelter, he would come and pick us up every morning, 7 o'clock, to take my boys back and forth to school. So while the
He
buses...
was lovely to you.
Yeah, he was. He was a good friend
So tell me
to
about your counterclaim.
Okay, so he bought me a car. After I moved out of the shelter, when he claimed that I went in his safe and took his money, he came and took the car back.
Is the car registered in your name?
The car wasn't registered. We had just got the car on September the 29th. I moved out of the shelter on
So
the
the car wasn't registered in your name?
In neither name.
Let's talk about what else you're suing him for.
Okay.
After all of his kindness to you.
Okay, my stuff was in storage. And
Yes.
once I moved out, I went back to get my stuff out of storage. My kid's TV was gone.
Right. And there were only 2 keys.
I had one, and he had one.
Right.
Okay.
So you think he came and stole your TV?
Yeah.
Were your sons with you?
No, they were at school.
No, but were your sons with you during this time that your television was in storage?
Yes.
And you had the key?
Yes.
Right? You had a
Yes.
key. Maybe one of your sons took the key, went to storage, took out the TV, and sold it.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, that's possible, isn't it, Miss Darling?
No, because we've been struggling ever since
No,
I
just
came
listen
in.
to me. I want you to... It's possible. The same way, Miss Darling, you say, I didn't take his money. He says they were the only ones there. You say he's the only other one with a key. You had a key.
Right, but
and your sons had access to your key. Maybe one of your sons took the key and went and took the TV and sold it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't think he's lying when you say that money was stolen out of his safe, do you?
I don't know if he was lying.
I don't think he was lying when he says money was stolen out of... Listen to me.
I'm sorry.
Why would he lie after he was so nice to you and your boys about money being stolen out of his safe?
That's what I wonder, too.
He was very nice to you, and if he's out $3,700...
That don't mean I took it. I wasn't...
No, I understand that. I didn't say that you took it. I didn't say that one of your boys took it, although that's a possibility. What I'm saying is, if he's out all of this money, why would you even think, after he was kind to you, nice to your children, suing him for the cost of the car that he made to you as a gift?
My intentions was not to countersue him.
Perfect. Then we don't have a problem. Your lawsuit, sir, is dismissed, as is your counterclaim. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Is suing his mother, 43-year-old loan broker Charlotte Vallis, for the return of a motorcycle. Charlotte is countersuing for the cost of an engagement ring and payments on the motorcycle.
Order. All rise. Shh. Yeah, this is case number 547 on the calendar in the matter of Wyrick versus Vallis. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. I see you have.
Mr. Wyrick, the defendant is your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And sometime last year, according to your complaint, you wanted a motorcycle.
Yes, ma'am.
Your mother agreed to purchase the motorcycle outright, and you would make payments on it to her until it was paid off.
Yeah, we wanted to go in, and I wanted her to co-sign on it. We both had bad credit, so she decided that she would go ahead and buy the bike.
Okay, well, she purchased it outright for $2,500. You made payments. And the only portion that you had left to pay her was $300.
Yes, ma'am.
You and your girlfriend were living in your mother's home. There was some sort of an argument about raising rent. You decided to move out. You wanted to take your motorcycle. Your mother said no. She said you owe $1,000 on the motorcycle.
Yep.
You want the $2,200 that you say you paid her towards the motorcycle.
Or the bike.
Your mother, of course, says that you still owe her about $1,000 on the bike. She's counterclaiming for a whole bunch of things. The motorcycle payment, an engagement ring that she said she put on her credit card that was for your girlfriend, a rent check that bounced, so she's suing you for 3 times the amount of the check, a whole bunch of things. Did you pay your mother by check or cash?
I always paid her by cash.
Who kept a record of how much you paid?
We both really kept the record. She had a record inside her filing cabinet. We both wrote down how much I paid her.
Do you have a copy of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it, please?
Sure.
Would you show that to him first? Is this the document that you're talking about that was in the
Your Honor,
filing cabinet?
There's a whole other page missing. There's like a whole other page. April, May, June, July that I stopped paying. I sold a motorcycle. I had another motorcycle that I sold. I gave her money for it because I was going to give it to my little brother. She decided that she didn't want it.
Let me see that. Now, you say that there was another payment in July?
July is when she stopped keeping track of it. I sold another bike, my other bike that I had. I sold that one in about August. I sold that for $500. I gave her $4 out of that. I kept $100.
And that was in August?
August or September that I sold it in.
You remember that? That he sold his other bike?
Yes, but that's not how it transpired.
Tell me about it.
Christopher was under the impression that I was going to take the motorcycle. I was not interested in it if my son Charles was not going to be interested in it.
But he sold it to somebody else.
Right.
Okay, and he gave you money. He gave you money out of the sale of that bike.
$300 of it, yes, ma'am.
He did. Why isn't that recorded here?
Because at that point, it became a real struggle with him in order for him to even pay me the money.
Just a second. That's not an answer.
Okay.
So what you're saying is this document that you gave me is incomplete, right?
It's as complete as I had at the time that the incident came about on February 13th.
He gave you money in August or September, which you did not record here. Is that correct?
I will give him the benefit of the doubt and say yes.
You want your bike?
Yeah, that's all I wanted from the get-go.
Fine. You have to give your mother $300.
That's fine. I can give it to her right now.
All right. And he gets the bike. The reason that I did that, madam, is because he handed me this document as a record of everything that he paid you on the bike. It is clearly an incomplete document because he gave you minimally $300, according to you. He says $400 that he gave you when he sold the bike. So you were giving me misinformation. And therefore, since you're the only one who was keeping a record, and he trusted you to keep that record, then I must assume that he gave you additional payments, and he is correct when he says he only owes you $300 for the bike. Now let's look at the counterclaim. Did your mother put an engagement ring on her credit card for you?
That's it right there. She can have it back. I don't even want to have anything to do with it anymore.
No, just a second. That's not so easy. Did you ask her to do that for you?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell her that you would pay her for it?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay her for it?
I didn't. I was kind of off on payments on it, but I remember making like 4 or 5 payments, but it was over a long period of time, so, I didn't make all the payments, but I did make a few here, a few there, but...
How much was the ring?
Actually, I have a copy of the awards card that it was put on.
Let's see. Yeah. Well, this doesn't tell me what this is for.
That's just a current statement.
I don't want a current statement. I want the statement that shows what the ring cost.
The ring cost, I think, $800 or $900 2 years ago.
Well, the balance is now up to $1,218.
There was never anything charged on that account until he wanted to put the ring on there. There was nothing on there.
Did he make any payments on this ring?
Very sporadic.
How much did he pay on the ring?
I never even kept track of that because at first he would make the payments, and then after like the last 6 months, I finally told him that he has to start making the payments on it, and he would refuse to even make the payments. So right now the payment is past due, like 6 months.
All right, now let's get to the last part of your claim, which was for rent.
Originally, I told them that February the rent was going to have to go up because I was only charging them $400, and it was 3 of them and just 1 of me, and it was getting to be extremely expensive for me to support the whole crew of us. So I told them that in February the rent was going to go up, and then that's when they said that they didn't want to live there anymore. They gave me a check from Molly's account for $400, and I waited for the check to clear. The check never cleared. I got the check back from my bank saying that they stopped payment, and that day that I got the information from my bank, I went home at lunch and confronted him about the stop payment on the check, and he told me that they weren't going to pay rent and that they were going to be out on the 15th, and F you, and it just got to be real ugly, and then he got physical, and then that's when I told him that he needed to leave. The police came.
What date was this?
February 13th.
So they weren't there quite half a month.
The whole deal with that is that in January she said she wanted us to move out. She was raising the rent to $650 a month. Her payments on her house are only $1,100. I'm not going to pay more than half a month's rent, especially when she decides that she just wants to kick me out. Molly did write her a check for $400, but we needed that money to put a down payment on another house that we were looking at. So I told Molly, I said, hey, stop the payment on the check. I wrote my mom a note and everything. I said, I'm going to stop payment on the check. I will give you $200 before the 15th. Anything I'm after the 15th, I will be happy to give you another $200 for. It's not a problem. I don't see giving her $400 for rent if I'm only going to be up there until the 15th. I gave her $100 and a note, and I went out of town for a little while. When I came back, that's when we got into the little altercation. I'm sitting at home on my bed reading a newspaper. She comes home from lunch, basically kicks down the door. You are not going to blah, blah, blah for this much of rent, this and that. You owe me for food, water. I pay for your son, this and that. And I'm like, I go to work at 5 in the morning. I come home at 10 at night. I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to eat at the house. I always eat fast food. So I made the mistake of picking up some fast food and throwing it at her. She threw it back at me. I closed my door. As soon as I opened my door up again, she punches me straight in the face. Before I had anything to even say, punches me right in the face.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christopher Wyrick claims his mother, Charlotte Vallis, won't return his motorcycle. Charlotte says Christopher owes her money.
That's a terrible thing that happened. Is this your only child?
No, ma'am.
You have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many other children do you have?
Just one.
How old is that child?
14.
Lives at home?
He lives with his father.
Does anybody else live in your home now?
Me and 2 cats.
And you were there half a month in February.
Yeah.
Is that right? And you told your mom that you would give her $200 for the month of February that you were there.
For the half a month, yeah.
So that's an additional $200. That's $1,418 for the ring and the rent.
Yes, ma'am.
And another $300 for your motorcycle. $1,718. What I find is sort of sad.
It is very sad.
Well, you look as if it's sad for you. He honestly looks as if it's sad for him.
She was the only family I've ever had, and, you know, it's like, now I got to deal with just me and my fiance and my 1-year-old son now, so it's, you know.
Well, you don't do the wrong thing. I mean, you did the wrong thing during that fight. You lost your temper.
I lose my temper, yeah, but, I mean, when someone punches you in the face, regardless if it's your mother or not, I never hit her back. I restrained her. I put her on the ground. I never hit her. She bit me. She punched me. She kicked me, you know.
Where are you living now?
I have my own house now. I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. My son has his own room. I have a big yard, garage, beautiful house.
You working, Molly?
Yes.
And you're working?
Yes, ma'am.
Who takes care of the baby?
We both do.
Step up. Go ahead.
He goes to daycare at the YMCA when we're at work.
Give us back to him. All right. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Stuff that she's done to me, it's just like, I'd be best off by myself, living my own life, dealing with my own situations and my own problems, basically.
I still love you, Christopher.
Whatever.
And now the next case.
All parties on Scarvata versus Marmora. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Andy Scarvata is suing former friend, 20-year-old James Marmer, for stolen money and a broken video camera.
According to this, you two were friends. You claim that the defendant was at your house and stole a video camera.
Correct.
And sometime later, while he denied that he stole the camera in the first place, he offered to facilitate its return to you if you paid him $200.
Correct.
Which you did.
Right.
So you, A, want that $200.
Yes.
Then you say he was at your house at another time and he stole cash from you.
Correct.
How much cash do you allege he stole?
$1,200, Your Honor.
And then later, you and either a friend or two decided to go to his house and confront him about the theft of this $1,200. And you wanted to memorialize that confrontation with the video camera that you had just repurchased from him.
We were hoping he'd admit it so that we have it on tape.
So you take the camera, you go to his house,
Right.
and there's a fight that ensues, an argument that ensues. He says you hit him a couple of times, and then when you were leaving, he took a bat and smashed the video camera. So you want him to pay for the video camera.
Correct.
What do? Do you go to school?
I go to Palomar College and work at a movie theater, Your Honor.
And you?
I was working at Chevron. I just put in my 2 weeks.
What did you do last year?
I was going to school.
Where?
Futures High School.
When you were 19?
Yeah. Got my diploma. I messed up when I was younger, and I'm on the right
Based
track now.
upon this, you sound like you messed up when you got older, too. So let's start out with the first theft, sir, which was, according to you, the video camera.
Right.
How did that come about?
James and his friend had come to my house, unexpected and uninvited. They started going through my stuff, and they came across my camera. They started playing with it for a little bit, and then I took it back. Then all of a sudden, James got up and left to his car. Then I went after him because I wanted to get a CD, which I had lent him. I went back to my house and noticed that my camera was missing.
So what did you do next when you noticed that your camera was gone?
I called up James, and he acted like he didn't know anything. He denied he and his friend took it. Then I called my mother, and she said if he still continues to deny it, then make a police report. We ended up making a police report. I have it right here, Your Honor. The cops said that they knew that James was lying, but they couldn't arrest him.
Okay. Now I have a question for you about the camcorder. There did come a time sometime later when you contacted the plaintiff and said, I have information about your camcorder.
Well, it was my friend, I guess. Well, he did take the camera.
Who, your friend who? The guy that you were with when you went to his house.
I mean, I didn't know who took the camera until, like, after he called me.
Sure
And
you
so-
did. You got into the car together. When you got into the car together, he showed you the camera. Of course you did.
Actually, he didn't show me the
Sure
camera.
he did.
No, he didn't.
All right.
So,
right.
he called me up, right? And he's like, I've got a video camera for sale. And I'm just like, I knew right away that's the video camera he's talking about. So I'm like, all right, let me think about that. Calling back in like 5 minutes. I called up Andy and I'm like, what's that camera worth to you? Is it worth $200? And he's like, yeah. So like I put up $200, got the video camera, went over to Andy's house and showed him, here's your video camera back, and you can have it back if you reimburse me what I had to pay to get it back for you. And he's like, sure, no problem.
Do you love it?
I think I saw this movie.
You think you saw this movie?
Yeah, I saw this movie.
Now let me hear about the $1,200.
Okay. He had asked me to borrow another $200. I agreed to lend him $100 in collateral for his CDs. He hadn't lent me his CDs. I went into my drawer. I took out my book where I had my $1,200 in. I showed him it. I gave him $100.
You showed him what?
Oh, my money.
Why?
Yeah.
That was pretty stupid.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that was pretty stupid. You know the guy stole your camera,
Right.
right? Then he's going to sell it back to you for more money. So you take out your book and show him where you keep your cash?
Yeah, that was definitely a dumb move on my part. I regret that for sure. Well, anyway, the day after that, the painters were painting the door in my house. They wanted the door to stay open so that it could dry. Then I came back, and I saw 4 messages on my answering machine. I had figured that they'd be from him to see if I was home or not. Then I noticed that my money was missing. Then I called him up. He acted like he didn't do anything. He denied
Well, who
it.
were the messages from, sir? You said there were 4
they
messages.
Were blank.
What?
They were blank, Your Honor. I assumed that they were from him.
Well, you can't assume that. You have caller ID?
Oh, no. No, ma'am.
Uh-huh. Did he call you and ask what happened to his money?
He called me up, he started accusing me.
Yeah.
He started like intimidating me on the phone, like threats. Like, there's so much more you don't know.
I don't want to know so much more. You don't have enough proof, sir, that he stole your money. Somebody was painting your house. The door was open. There were painters in and out of your house. There were other people in and out of your house. The possibility was that he took your money because you were dumb enough to show him where it was. But it wasn't under lock and key, was it?
No, ma'am.
Now, tell me about the smashed camera, sir.
I told my friend John, my witness here today, to bring along my camera so that we'd get some proofs so we could give it to the court. And we went over to his house. James came out with a weapon. He started, he's all you guys get off my property right now. I called the cops and they're on the way. I asked him where my money was. He ignored me, so I pushed him. And then he pushed me back, and then I hit him. And then he ran back into his house. He came back with a baseball bat. We ran to the car. I was in the back seat at the time. He was trying to get me from the outside of the car with the baseball bat. He had given up. He saw that my camera was under the seat. He took it. He said, look at this. How does this make you feel? And he threw it on the ground and he smashed it.
And you acknowledge that you smashed his camera?
I acknowledge it.
Yeah, you admitted
And I'm glad I did it.
Oh, good. Swell. Let me see your bill for the camera, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Camera was $1,024.97. Mr. Marmor is very pleased that he smashed it. He's very happy he smashed it, so I'm sure he'd be happy to take care of it. I also find that this bull story about buying back his old camera from somebody by the name of, whose last name he unfortunately couldn't give the police, was just that, a lot of story. So I'm awarding you, sir, $1,224.97. That's all.
Parties are excused, Judy.
Amy denies the charge.
Miss Reagan, Miss Ross is your cousin, and it is your claim that she stole some money from your house.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Ross denies that she stole the money from your house. How much money do you claim she stole?
$380.
And when do you claim she stole that money?
December the 17th.
And where was the money?
It was in this folder. I've got a table by my chair, and it's right behind the table.
It was in your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was in the house?
My husband, myself, Justin had come over to get some gas money.
Justin is your nephew?
And then Amy.
And what proof do you have, Miss Reagan, that Miss Ross took your money?
Well, what it is that day she come over, Justin had come over, he called first, said, could he come over and get some gas money? I keep up with all of his bills because he's young, he don't know how to do it yet. I've got a car with my name on it that's his, and... I got it.
So he wanted to come over and get some gas money that you were holding for him?
Yes. He came over, got $35, which left $380. I keep a book where I write down every time he comes over to get money. And he got it, he left. Amy was there, she asked me, why does he come over here to get gas money? I explained to her, I keep his money. For what reason? Well, how much does he got in there? And I said, just $380.
I'm sorry.
And then after asking me that, I didn't think anything of it. She was like, well, it must be nice to be 17, have a brand new car, a nice apartment, and have money. And I was like, well, he's just getting started. That was the end of that. She stayed a total probably about 3 hours that day. We did go to Lowe's probably about 3 hours after her being there.
Who went?
Me and Amy.
Two of you?
The two of us, yeah. And she was talking about, in that time frame, how broke she was. She didn't have any money. She was getting one more check before Christmas and wasn't able to get her kids anything for Christmas. Didn't know if she had gas money to get back home. But when we went to Lowe's, she bought a hammer and pulled out a $10 bill, which I didn't think nothing of it either. You know, I say I'm broke all the time, but still have money. And so she dropped me off. I didn't talk to her no more for about 3 days.
And then you found your money missing?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the proof that you have.
Well, no, that's just the story. The proof is that whenever I called Lisa, her sister, to ask her, did you and Amy happen to have went shopping? Do you know of any money? Because we all know that she's broke. Do you happen to know of any money that she come up with recently? She didn't answer the phone. I left a message. I didn't tell her anything. I just told her to call me. When she did call me, she was like, oh, girl, I know what's going on. Amy done told me all about it. And then that's when she comes in.
Tell me your last name.
Durham.
Miss Durham, what do you know about this missing money?
Amy had called me, and we just were talking, and I said, well, oh, Christy had called this morning, and she left a message. I need to call her back. And she just said, oh, girl, I know why she called. She thinks I stole her money. And I said, what? And she said she thinks I stole her money, but I didn't do it. And she's threatened to get fingerprints off that book. And the only time I touched that book was to get paid right up to get to make a Christmas list for my children.
And she said that she had told me that on the initial call whenever I called her to ask her about that, because I did ask my husband about it first, and then I asked Justin, are you sure you did not take any money out of this folder? And I knew he didn't, but I knew I needed to ask first before I called Amy to ask her about it. And all she did was just go off, fly off the handle, say, no, I didn't take it. I can't believe you accused me of that. And I said, well, all I'm saying is my brother-in-law is a sergeant. I'm going to have it fingerprinted because it is plastic. Bluffing the whole time, hoping she would come up and say, well, you know, and then she told her, kind of like giving her a reason why her fingerprints would be on it. But she never told me that.
That was the reason why.
What was the reason why? You went into that folder.
Okay.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
You went into the folder to get some addresses for a
well,
Christmas
I was
list?
sitting in her rocking chair in her house.
I don't care where you were sitting. I don't care
Yes,
if you were
ma'am.
sitting on a stool, on the floor, or whatever.
No,
My
I
question
wasn't.
to you is a simple one. You went into the folder to get a Christmas list.
No, not to get a Christmas list, to get a piece of paper to make a Christmas list.
Okay.
Is what happened.
Good. I have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
I live by myself.
Where are your children?
They're with me.
Have they always been with you?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
They're 8 and 5.
And how do you support them?
I'm a preschool teacher and also their father.
How much do you make teaching?
I make about $1,500 a month.
How long have you been teaching?
For 6 months.
Prior to that, where were you working?
I was working at a temporary service.
You have a bachelor's degree?
No. I'm just a preschool teacher at a daycare.
Is this your first job as a preschool?
Yes, ma'am. Well, no, I've worked at another daycare prior to this one.
Did you take the money out of that folder?
No, ma'am, I didn't. And what I have to defend myself on this is I didn't take that money, and she knows I didn't take that money.
She doesn't know. Listen to me. She doesn't know. You may not have taken it.
I didn't.
But she doesn't know.
And I don't have to steal money from my children.
Listen to me.
If I need money, I go to their father.
Listen to me. She doesn't know that you didn't take it, because my sense is that she legitimately believes that you took it.
And then she called my work harassing me. She harassed my boss. She said, because I'm not going to let you speak with her because she's in a classroom. She said,
Don't tell me what, listen to me, don't tell me what she said to your boss.
Well, she called me at work, and when it first happened, she called me, because this supposedly I went over there on a Sunday. She called me on Thursday morning, about 11.
Okay.
At work.
Now, that's my question. This happened on December 17th, according to you.
Yes, that's when the money was taken.
When did you find the money missing?
The following Thursday. Because
Too long a time, Miss Reagan.
Well, what it is Justin.
Too long a time, Miss Reagan.
And she called me threatening to take my kids away from me.
Listen.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you anymore. Cry quietly. Okay. It's too long a time, Miss Reagan, between the time that she was in your house and the time you found the money missing. You may say that the only people that were in the house were you and your husband and Justin, but I'm not sure of that. Do you have children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
3.
How old are they?
12-year-old, I got an 8-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
And only
and they also live in the house?
Yes.
I don't know who took your money.
Well, can I explain why it was Thursday when I found it?
I don't care why it was Thursday. It was Thursday. The fact that it was Thursday is dispositive, not the fact that you waited until Thursday. I have to determine whether or not there were other people who had access to that folder. According to you, the folder is not locked. It's in plain view in your house. You have 3 children, a 12-year-old.
That didn't even know I took
Listen to
money
me. Whether they know or not, children snoop. So I would say to you that without proof, the first person that shouldn't come into your mind is her. If I were missing money in my house, the first person that I would look at is my 12-year-old. Now, that may sound terrible to you. It's just a fact of life. That's it. So, in any event, as far as the courts are concerned, you need proof positive, dispositive proof that somebody is a thief. And I, quite frankly, don't find the proof here. Nor should you. When there are lots of people who have access to that folder. Does your 12-year-old have friends over occasionally?
No.
I don't believe that.
He don't.
Well, I don't believe that. Then you're not a very good mother if you don't let your 12-year-old have friends
goes
over.
off.
So I don't quite believe that. In any event, you may or may not owe her an apology. She certainly doesn't owe you any money. That's all. Case is dismissed.
18-year-old Monica Vasquez claims ex-boyfriend Lyndon Trujillo owes for kicking her car and smashing it with trash cans. Monica also claims Lyndon destroyed her cell phone.
You are?
Lydia Calderon, Monica's mother.
Okay, but you don't know anything about this case particularly, do you?
No.
Except that the car belonged to you.
Belongs to both of us.
Are you both on the title?
Yes.
Why don't you sit down for a moment? You're Monica?
Yes.
This was your boyfriend?
Yes.
How long was he your boyfriend?
For about 3 years.
Monica, you say that he broke your cell phone and vandalized your car.
Yes.
He says he didn't do it. So tell me when he vandalized your car.
It was like about 1:30, and he showed up at my house.
1:30
in the
on what
morning.
On what date?
July 28th.
Where were you?
I was at home.
Who else was at home?
My sister.
It was 1:30 a.m. Do you live with your sister?
Yes, I do.
What does your sister do for a living?
She works at Premier Real Estate. She's
And
a
what do you do?
receptionist.
What do you do?
I'm a cashier.
Where?
At Rite Aid.
How long have you been working there?
In October, it'll be a year.
Mr. Trujillo.
Yes.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a tattoo artist.
You work for yourself?
Yeah, pretty much.
What does that mean?
I'm not working at a shop right now.
So where do you work from?
Out of my house.
Are you licensed?
No.
Do you have to be licensed where you live?
No.
Where do you live?
I live in California.
And in California, you don't need a license to give somebody a tattoo with
No,
a
you
needle? That's a big mistake, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you need a license to give somebody a pedicure,
Yeah.
but not to give somebody a tattoo.
No.
You
Not.
sure about that?
I'm positive about that.
Anyway, you make a living at this?
Yeah.
Well, especially since you have no overhead.
What's that? No. What? No. What? No.
Overhead.
Overhead? Oh, okay. Yeah, that was over my head. Sorry.
Unfortunately, Mr. Trujillo, that was true.
Right. Sorry about that.
All right, Miss Vasquez, why don't you tell me about what happened on the 28th of July?
Okay, he showed up at my house and he knocked on my window. I came out of my room and I went to the garage because he went around the house. And I had told him to leave because my sister did not want him around her house.
Why did he come there?
He was...
He said you called him.
No, I did not call him.
You say in your papers, sir, that you went over to the house at 1:30 on July 28th because she called you.
Yeah, we had been talking.
No. Because she called you on July 28th. That's
Okay.
why you said you went over there, right?
Right.
And how did she call you? On your cell phone?
Yeah.
Do you have your cell phone records?
No. I'm sure if I went and got him, I could bring him back to you. I mean, if you wanted to, another
We
day
don't
or
do
something.
do-overs here, Mr. Trujillo. What we do is, when you're coming to court, you're supposed to be prepared. You know what it's like, Mr. Trujillo? You do tattooing
Yeah.
in your house.
Right.
Let's say you made an appointment with somebody who's going to get a really big tattoo. They were going to pay a whole lot of money
Yeah.
for the tattoo. And let's say they arrived and they sat down for you to do the tattoo and you forgot to buy ink.
Right. Yeah, it's happened a couple times.
That's what it's like, Mr. Trujillo, when you come here without evidence.
Yeah, I understand.
With just your good looks and tattoo. That's what happens. You're supposed to bring evidence, bring proof. So we have no proof that she called you to arrive at her house at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so you went outside and you told him to disappear.
Yes.
And what happened?
And by that time, my sister had came out because she heard the knock because our rooms are right next door. And she had went out and told him to leave her house because she was going to call the
police.
Because the incident with the phone.
Oh, so the incident with the phone happened first?
Yes.
And that happened about a month before?
Yes.
Why don't you tell me what happened?
Okay, I was at work, and I get out of work at 10, and he showed up at my work, so I left.
Had you not been seeing each other?
No.
Go ahead.
And I left my work, and he followed me down the street, and he was telling me to pull over, and he was next to me in my car. And so I pulled over because he was coming closer to my car, and he had said that if I didn't pull over, he would go to my house and, break windows. And so I pulled over, and he had got my phone to check it for what, I don't know, we weren't together. And I was telling him to give me back my phone, and he was like, "You want your phone?" So he cracked it in half and gave it to me. And so...
Had he been drinking?
Yes, he had a beer in his car.
Who else was in the car?
He was by himself that night.
You got to get a job out of the house, Mr. Trujillo.
Okay.
Listen to me, sir. First, I want you to tell me who these people are that you brought with you to court today.
I brought my dad to court with me today and my brother Fabian. This is my dad, Johnny, and Fabian and Silo.
Yeah, and you all live together?
No.
Do you live alone?
No, I live with my uncle.
Why?
Because my dad has recently moved, and he had moved in with someone else, and there wasn't enough room, so I actually went to live with my uncle.
And where does your brother live?
With his grandpa.
How old are you?
I'm 18.
How old's your brother?
19.
Who did your father move in with?
His girlfriend.
Was there a time you were all living together?
At one time, yeah.
When was the last time you lived together with your father?
About 2 months ago, I lived with my dad in Visalia.
And your brother also lived with your father?
No. My brother has always lived with his grandpa in Tulare.
Did you break her phone?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Well, tell me what happened, Mr. Trujillo.
Me and Monica had been seeing each other before this incident with the cell phone happened. We had been talking, and we had been texting each other, and she had told me that she got out of work at 10 o'clock, and that if I wanted to see her after work. And I said, okay, cool. I had the car, so I said, okay, I'll meet you at Taco Bell. So we went, and we met at Taco Bell parking lot, and we were there. Everything was fine. We were talking, hugging. Everything was cool. And then a call comes through on my phone. And when a call comes through on my phone, it was a ringtone, as, you know, the ringtones, like I know you've heard them, like the lovey-dovey ringtones, like the, you know what I mean, like the guy and girl together ringtones. You know what I'm talking about or no? Like, I mean, I could sing one. Like, I mean, I could sing one for you, if you want me to sing one. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, at the time when that had happened, we were both kind of looking at each other because I was already like, okay, you know, something's wrong, I messed up. So Monica had...
Yeah.
Yeah, so at that time, Monica had snatched my phone out of my hand. And when that had happened, she snatched my phone, and I reached for it back. We kind of got into an argument, a little conflict, you know what I mean? And
Who was calling you, Mr. Trujillo?
just a friend.
boyfriend or a girlfriend?
It was a girlfriend.
The timing was really terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't expected.
It was messed up.
Yeah, it was at the right time. So when that had happened, I was leaning up against my car, and Monica had thrown my phone at me. But when she had thrown my phone at me, somehow, and you can tell she has little hands. I don't know how she had both phones in her hand, but when she had thrown it at me, my phone rolled over the car, the hood of the car, and her phone hit my car and broke. However it broke, it was snapped in half, and that's basically what happened.
When he met you at Taco Bell, had you told him that you were going to be out of work at 10 o'clock?
No, he called my work around 10, and he said, I was around the corner. He goes, I'll be there right now. And I was like, I'm going home, I'm leaving. And at that point, my boss had opened the doors to let me leave earlier than everybody else, because I had told him. And when I got in my car to leave, he was already at the corner, and that's when he just followed me.
You think if I called her boss would say that they opened the door and let her out a little early?
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
What's your boss's name?
David Centeno.
Give me his number.
It's my phone, and my phone is out there.
The Rite Aid number, 67816. There you go.
7816? Now, Mr. Trujillo.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to listen to me very carefully.
Okay.
When somebody tells me, I tend to disbelieve everything that they say, especially when I have to get my rather sizable keister off this chair and go in the back to make a telephone call. Do you understand?
Oh, yes.
Now, I am prepared to do that.
Okay.
Unless you want to revise your version of the cell phone events.
No, ma'am. No, not at all.
Okay, so let's call Mr. David, because he doesn't have any clue that I might be calling him. He is going to tell me whether or not he let her out early because you were going to come over.
Right.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay.
Yes, is David Centeno there, please? David, this is Judge Judy Sheindlin. How are you? Good, thank you. David, I have a question for you. I'm here trying a case with Monica Vasquez. And I want you to think back to sometime around the end of June of this year, in the evening when she was leaving. There was an incident with her boyfriend when he called the store. Do you remember that? Could you tell me what happened, please, David? Mm-hmm. Okay. Wonderful. David, you're a very, very nice man for speaking to me. I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you. Bye-bye. Boss is a very nice gentleman. Mr. Trujillo, I suggest you spend a little less time tattooing and piercing yourself and a little more time honing your truthful skills, sir. Honing your truthful skills. Ask your father what that means. Honing your truthful skills, sir.
Oh, okay.
Because Mr. Centeno says that he remembers the evening very well. You would call the store. You said, I'm going to get down there before the store closes. They let her leave early, and they stood there to watch her get in her car and take off before you got there because she had already broken up with you, and she was afraid about what was going to happen if you got there.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So now I believe very little, sir, of what you're going to tell me. So now he owes you a cell phone. Now I want you to tell me what happened when he vandalized your car.
Okay, that was the night he showed up at my window.
That's correct.
Okay.
And you came out, you told him to leave. Sister came out, and you told him to leave. And I understand that there were other people with him.
His father and his brother.
Two geniuses.
Yes. And they were all drinking.
Two geniuses. Well, they can't live together, so at least they can drink together. I guess that's what family's all about. Go ahead.
And my sister had told his dad to keep him away from her house. And his dad didn't really understand what was happening because Lyndon didn't let him know about the night with the cell phone. So he didn't understand why my sister was...
I think if there wasn't a cell phone, his father wouldn't have understood. Go ahead.
So after that, my sister had told him she was going to call the cops and get a restraining order on him. And at that time, Lyndon was mad because his dad had told me, well, then I don't want her calling him or at my house. And I had said, I haven't called your son and I haven't been to your house. And at that time, Lyndon had got mad and they were drinking. So he kind of like pushed my sister. And at that time, when he got angry, my sister ran to the house to call the cops. And at that time, I had ran back to the house too because he was still mad. And he followed me to the garage door on the side of the house. And when I closed the door and locked it, I could feel him trying to open it. He just went to the front of the garage where my car was parked, and I heard a loud noise. And at that time, I had lifted the garage door up because my sister had came out, and we seen him leave the side of my car and get into his dad's car, and the two trash cans were against my car, laying against my car.
You have pictures of the car?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Outrageous. When did you purchase this car?
Last year in November.
Bought it yourself?
My mom helped me.
Who pays for it?
I do.
Paid the insurance too?
Mm-hmm.
Stand up next to him. You came here, you might as well stand up here.
Monica Vasquez says ex-boyfriend Lyndon Trujillo owes for vandalizing her car and for destroying her cell phone.
What were you doing out with your son at 1:30 in the morning?
We had went to the club.
What club?
El Presidente.
What were you doing at the club?
Dancing.
And drinking?
I was, yes.
With whom?
Females.
All different kinds?
Pretty much, yeah.
So if you were dancing and drinking with a whole bunch of females, you weren't watching what your two sons were doing?
Actually, he was on his cell phone the whole time we were there, text messaging and back and forth. And I went to him and asked him, who are you texting? And he said, Monica. So
And that's what he said to you?
Yeah.
That's what he said to you, but you don't know that that's true.
No, but if I may, Your Honor?
Yeah.
The day before the cell phone incident had occurred,
Yeah.
she came to my house, and my dad was coming up from work, and she was coming downstairs. I was walking her down to her car. And that's why I don't understand really how it could go from her being upstairs in my house and me and her being together in a relationship or working things out, and then to...
Well, were you working things out, or were you in a relationship, sir?
No, we're working things out to be in a relationship.
So what did you go there at 1:30 in the morning for?
Because we had been texting each other. We had been texting and talking to each other, and...
Did she invite you there?
Yeah, I had her on speakerphone because I was the designated driver. Yeah, she had told him she was in the car. She knew that the speakerphone wasn't on. That her sister was asleep, the kids were gone, for him to go over there and visit, to see her.
And what were you going to do?
I just sat in the car because I was drinking.
You, and what about him?
He was in the back seat.
So the two of you were just going to sit there in the back seat of the car, in the front seat of the car, while he went inside to visit with his girlfriend?
They didn't go inside. They stayed outside in the driveway.
Fine. So he goes over to see Monica, and how did her car get dented?
When we got there, Monica had stepped outside. She was walking towards her car. We pulled up, and she went like this, like waved us over there. We all three got out of the car, walked over. She showed us a dent on her car and said that she had got into an accident with a motorcyclist. And me and her made a few comments back and forth because I had just recently wrecked my Harley. And I had told her, so anyways, we said a few statements back and forth. And then me and Fabian went back and got back in the car. They stayed there talking, hugging, kissing until Marie came outside. And Monica flipped the whole script when Marie came outside. Because she was upset.
Were you at his house the day before?
No, I was not.
Yeah, you was.
No, I was not.
Yeah, you was.
No, I was not.
When you send a text message, could you save those things?
They stay for 14 days.
Huh?
You can lock them.
Save them, right?
Yes, you can.
Show me.
Your Honor, I don't have my phone with me. I don't have any proof right now, Your Honor, so it's...
Why don't you, sir?
Because I came unprepared. I came on intentions of knowing that what I know is true.
Is everything that you said just now as truthful as you went over to the store the end of June, invited by her to come over to the store?
What, to her store, Rite Aid?
Yeah.
No, I didn't go to Rite Aid.
Oh, no.
No, I said I went to Taco Bell. I drove to Taco Bell. She was at Rite Aid when we had talked on her.
Why would you think, Mr. Trujillo, that she would say to her boss, concerned, I just want to get out of here before he comes over? And the boss distinctly remembers all the employees watching her get into the car to make sure she was safe and leave.
But I wasn't in her parking lot, though.
I don't care whether you were in a parking lot or not, sir. Why do you think the boss would remember that?
Oh, yeah, no, boss, no. I'm not saying that. She got in her car, but I'm saying what I'm trying to tell you, though, is that I did not go into her parking lot.
No, what you said, Mr. Trujillo, was that you had an appointment to meet in Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And that, sir, is a lie. That, sir, is a lie.
That we met in Taco Bell?
It is a lie that you had an appointment to meet at Taco Bell, because when she heard from you, she asked her boss if she could take off because she was concerned about her safety. They all watched her leave.
Then why would she have pulled into Taco Bell if she knew that she could have got away from me?
I don't know what you were doing, sir. And I don't know what your drunken father was doing or your drunken brother was doing on the night this happened with the car. I have no clue. All I know is, sir, you lied to me once, and you also don't know the law in the jurisdiction where you live because you're required to have a license to tattoo. Sir.
Okay.
And what is your address?
My address right now?
Where you're doing the tattooing?
In a house. On
What is the address?
I don't know my address. I just know it's on Bradley Street. I've only been there like a month, 2 months, so I don't know the address. I don't get mail there.
Did you make more than 3 children or just 3?
Only 3.
Only 3. So far you got 2 losers, right? 1?
I don't consider
2.
them losers, but...
Well, so far they haven't done anything to make you proud.
Sure they have.
I don't see
I
it.
graduated high school. That made me proud.
My God. My God, that's like the 8th wonder of the world.
That's an accomplishment in this family.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
You got to do something with it once you graduate from high school.
Yes, I totally agree.
So pleased that you agree with me. I've been looking forward all year for a person of your stature to agree with me. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $950. That's all. Goodbye.
Anita Mendelson claims her son's former friend, Christian Luna, slandered her on the internet. Christian says he has the right to free speech.
Miss Mendelson, this is your son.
Yes, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, your son and the defendant and some other boys, maybe some of these boys here, were friends.
Yes, they used to.
Well, you say that they didn't treat him nicely and they used him for rides and stuff when they needed him.
Right, Your Honor.
But at some point, according to you, this young man posted some very, very rude things about you.
Right, Your Honor.
On something called MySpace.
Right, Your Honor.
MySpace is one of these internet sites where people who have nothing better to do with their time go and chat about a whole bunch of nonsense.
Right, Your Honor.
Is that about what it is?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that about right?
Right.
That's about right.
You know, I always said that we could eliminate probably 1/3 of the problems in this country if people actually had to shovel coal in a furnace for heat. Rather than spending all that spare time that they have making problems for other people and sitting behind their computers doing things other than for which computers were originally designed. Mr. Luna says, First Amendment. I can post anything I like on the internet because there's free speech in this country. That is your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
Really?
Yes.
Is that what you think the Constitution says, Mr. Luna?
Well, first of all...
I didn't ask you first of all. That required a yes or a no answer, sir. Is that what you think the Constitution says? That you can say anything you want to about anybody?
On certain grounds, yes. But I believe that I didn't write anything that really damaged her reputation as she claimed.
All right. Well, then let's see what you said, because I had no clue about what you said here. First, Mr. Luna, since there is no issue, sir, that you posted these things about Mrs. Mendelson on this internet site, I'd like to know why you did it.
Okay. Well, it all started when myself...
Is the same person,
yes,
I assume, unless you're bipolar.
Me and my friends were talking just online, just joking while we were waiting for our classes. And then we just talked about certain stupid things, I know. And then...
You talked about stupid things while you were waiting for change of classes in college?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, we were online.
Who's paying for your school?
My father.
Your father is paying for you to be in school and talk about stupid things with your friends in between classes? Is that what you think you're paying for, sir?
Not really.
Good, perfect. Love to hear it. You and I are going to get along just fine. Go ahead.
Well, we were just waiting for our classes because I
don't care why you were waiting for your classes. I asked you why you said bad things about Mrs. Mendelson.
Well, it was just to relieve our stress and frustrations.
Why don't you get a job?
Well, I had school. I'm a full-time college student.
Well, then why are you writing about Mrs. Mendelson to relieve your stress?
Because beforehand, she was making comments about us, me and my friends, specifically.
Oh, on the internet?
No, like to her son.
So she was having a private conversation with her son about you and your friends?
Yes, and then...
She's allowed to do that?
Yes, but it was very rude and very untrue. And she assumed many things, and she would tell him...
Who cares? Who cares what she assumed? She's having a private conversation with a child. She's not publishing anything. Let me see what you wrote about her.
have it right here.
Did your father see it?
Yes,
When did you show it to him?
about a month ago.
When did you write it?
October 26th.
So why did you wait so long to show your father?
Well, because number one, I was trying to handle my own business. And then the month after October 26th, I actually forgot about the conversation because that is a conversation between me and Derek.
You know what I find most distressing about this, Mr. Luna, is that you're illiterate, and so is your friend, and that your family is wasting a whole lot of money sending you to college and getting an illiterate person at the end. Mr. Luna?
Can I say something,
Mr.
Your Honor?
Luna, did you read this?
Yes, Your Honor. I read it lately, Your Honor.
Stand up, sir.
May I say something about the case, Your Honor?
No, you may say nothing about the case, sir. You may answer my questions. First of all, Mrs. Mendelson, I have just read this.
Yes.
Okay? This is not actionable, which means that you can sue, but you're not going to win. What is written here, if I can read it,
Yes,
because
Your Honor.
it looks like it's written by somebody who was educated in some third world country where they only go up to kindergarten. Watch what? W-A-T? You say about her cuz, C-U-Z, she might come to your house, Y-R, and do crazy, and that's a bad word, I'll leave that out, like castrating you and sewing I'll use a different word, testicles back on backwards and sewing your foot and you with it. Okay? It's stupid. Do you know what? That's what you're complaining about, right?
Yes,
Listen
Your
to me.
Honor.
Listen to me. I didn't know what he had said about you. What he said about you was stupid. Nobody takes it seriously. Nobody's thinking you're going to come to somebody's house and you're going to do that to them. He's just being stupid. So it doesn't even amount to free speech. It amounts to the rantings of some juvenile who's just being dumb. Do you understand?
Yeah. And I was really upset because...
Well, I can understand you were upset, but
I'm
that's
not
not
an
actionable.
immoral
Now,
person.
was this young man your friend, Mr. Luna?
Yes, we were very close.
You say some bad things about him.
Well, it was jokingly.
Well, it's not an answer, sir. You say if you were very, very close. Why do you say bad things about him in here?
It's friendly banter between us. That's what we do.
Who was bantering here? Not him.
Well, it's between me and...
No. Between you and him. You weren't bantering with each other, calling each other funky names. You were bantering with him, and you were making fun of him, Mr. Luna. That makes you not a very nice person when you say he was a friend of mine.
Yes, but all of us are friends. We do the same things to each other. But
Does he have a car?
Yes.
Do you have a car?
No.
Who drove you around?
Well, sometimes Irving drives me around, sometimes my friend Manuel or Derek recently. But it's not like I'm...
It's not like you're using him or anything.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Mr. Luna, your son did a disrespectful thing, but not actionable. So you don't have to worry. He doesn't have to pay Mrs. Mendelson any money. I don't know if he's a nice young man or not a nice young man. Only you know that.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Yes.
He's a nice young man. In fact, he helped Irving in his religion class, and he's kind of mentoring this guy. I mean, they were friends, Your Honor, and it all started...
Did you read this?
Yeah, I know. I read it. But it all started when Mrs. Mendelson tried to blame my son and his friends that they are using drugs.
Yes.
And she's trying to, separate his son from these guys who are nice people. I just don't know why Mrs. Mendelson is so mad at my son.
Maybe you want to tell me, Mrs. Mendelson?
The truth, Your Honor, is that I never said that they're using drugs. It was a lie. What I told my son is that because I saw a lot of this abuse from Christian sending all those messages against him, and I told my son, stop giving him a ride and transfer to other school. And I didn't mention anything about drugs. You're wrong.
Well, who told you that Mrs. Mendelson accused you of using drugs?
Her son.
He told you?
Yes.
Irving, stand up next to your mother. Did you ever tell this young man that your mother accused him of using drugs?
Not exactly.
What do you mean, not exactly, Irving?
Well, she said that she doesn't want me hanging around people who do drugs.
Okay, so?
And in that sense, that's what I said to Christian.
But she never accused Christian of doing drugs?
No.
No. That's your answer, Mr. Luna. What else?
I would just like to clear something out. I didn't use Irving to give me rides. I don't just randomly call him and he's like, oh, can you give me a ride to this so-and-so place? I would ask him a ride if we were going there together. But I've never used them just
Christian,
to...
I want you to listen to me very carefully.
Okay.
Having access to a machine like a computer and access to a place like MySpace where you can say very damaging and hurtful things doesn't mean that you should use it. When you write something like this, even though it sounds asinine, juvenile, and stupid, it was still hurtful to Mrs. Mendelson. It's not the kind of thing that the courts will take action about, but it's the kind of things that you shouldn't write about one person because it's just unkind. And you can't hide behind the cloak of anonymity when you do that because it's out there for millions and millions and millions of people to read. And it's hurtful. And I say this to you and to your friends and to you and anybody else who uses the internet. Once you put something down and go send, or whatever you do, because I don't use that machine, it's out there, and it's out there forever, and it's hurtful. You have to be careful. That about her was unkind.
I know that, Your Honor.
Very good. Then you tell him he did the wrong thing? Tell him to apologize to her?
In fact,
say, shh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Mendelson.
Okay.
That's it.
Just don't do it again, ever.
Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Robert Burrich is suing his ex-fiancée, Carla Jones, for money loaned and forged checks. Carla is countersuing, claiming Robert made false accusations to her probation officer.
Mr. Burrich, Miss Jones used to be your living girlfriend?
She was my fiancée.
And according to your complaint, she owes you some money. First for a loan, for insurance, well over a year ago. And then you claim that at some point she forged some checks.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you claim she's got some of your personal property.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jones says none of them were loans. She did, in fact, sign your name to checks. You knew about that. You did not report those forged checks, according to you, when you found out about them. But you continued to live together as a couple. But when you broke up, you, according to you, called her parole officer. You're on parole for something?
I'm off now.
And you called her parole officer to report the forged checks. Is that right?
Yes.
Why'd you do that for?
Because she was forging checks while on parole, and
No, look at me, look at me.
It was a violation.
Let's get a timeline.
It's a violation.
Mr. Barish, listen to me. Don't interrupt me when I'm speaking.
Excuse me.
According to you, it was in October of 2004 that you found out that she had signed your name to some checks.
Yes.
How much in total were the checks that she signed?
$2,900.
And what were they for?
They were made out to her, signed by her, and cashed by her, and deposited to her account.
Okay. Now, when did you find out about these checks? So was that in October?
It was after she moved out in October.
So after you found out about these forged checks, how long did it take you to call her parole officer?
It took me until March of 2005.
Okay. Let's go. Checks, $2,900 worth.
No, nothing was stolen from him. No forged checks. We would pay our bills together. I would tally up how much utilities were or groceries, and I'd say, I need X amount of dollars. And he'd say, okay, go ahead and get a check, write it for that, deposit it in there, and pay the bills. And I'd
deposit it where?
Into my checking account. I'd always call him at work, or he would be home when we did it, and he would say, go put that in your checking account and then pay the bills, because I paid everything online.
What are you on parole for? Anything to do with
I'm
checks?
not on parole. I was on probation.
Probation, anything having to do with checks?
No, it was for a DUI.
Oh. How long were you living together?
About 2.5 years.
Who paid the bills, sir?
The arrangement was that I paid the rent because it was a considerable amount of money, and she picked up the tab for the utilities and the food.
What precipitated your leaving in October of 2004?
Well, the relationship was kind of going sour, and in August of 2004, we had been going to some counseling to see if we could work through some of the issues. And I realized in my heart that it just wasn't going to work out for me, that I wasn't going to be able to go through with the relationship. And of course, he was very upset. And I told him at the end of the lease, which was November 1st of 2004, that I'd be moving out by then and getting my own place.
Robert Burrich says ex-fiancée Carla Jones stole money by forging his check, countersuing, claiming Robert made false accusations to her probation officer.
Okay. When for the first time, Ms. Jones, did the plaintiff confront you about these checks?
Towards the end of the year after I had moved out. We were still talking to each other, and he would come over sometimes on the weekends, and I just felt really sorry for him.
Just tell me what he said to you about the checks.
He called me on the phone close to Christmas. I said I didn't want to see him anymore. I said, I don't want you coming over anymore. I don't want to see you at all. It's done. I don't even want to be friends with you. And that's when he threatened he was going to go to the police station and tell them that I forged these checks while we were together. And I said, you know, that's a lie. How can you go tell a lie like that? And he says, I can say whatever I want. And then in March, I finally just told him, I said, I can't see you anymore. We're kind of seeing each other on and off, on and off. Well, he told me he was going to go to the police and do this. So I guess the next day, which was March 14th.
So the first time he spoke to you about it was in December of 2004.
Threatening to do this.
On what date did you contact her probation officer?
It was the 15th of March.
What happened between December and March, sir?
I was investigating
You already knew about it, and you confronted her with them. And if you had been concerned that she had forged your name to checks and you felt that it was the right thing to do to notify her probation officer, why didn't you do it in December or January or February?
I was hesitant. I wanted the relationship to go on. During the counseling sessions, the counselor asked me if I loved her, and I said yes. And the counselor asked her, did she love me? And she said she didn't know. And the counselor said, did you love him when you took that engagement ring? And she said, I don't know. And I wanted this relationship to last. It was very important to me. She was very important to me. And I figured that the less waves, the better the chances of the relationship working.
But it didn't work, sir.
It didn't, no, it didn't work.
It didn't work. And the response to it not working is not to behave in a retaliatory way.
That's right.
The response to it not working is saying, you went to counseling, she didn't deceive you. She said, we'll go to counseling, we'll see if we can get it to work. And she was being honest. She said, I don't know my feelings. She wasn't trying to be hurtful. If she wanted to be hurtful, she wouldn't have gone to counseling with you.
She deceived me when she accepted the engagement ring.
No, you know, you're talking about there's hard evidence and then there's soft evidence. You know, the divorce rate in this country is 52%. Now, all of those people who divorce, when they sit back, you know, a year later, 6 months later, 5 years later, they say, gee, I wonder if I really loved him. I wonder if I really loved her when I walked down the aisle. You know, or was it something else? It was, you got to get married, or, you know, I fell in love with the beautiful face, or I fell in love with the bank account, whatever it was. Was it really him? I'm really not sure. You know, I really don't know in my heart anymore. That's what people say to themselves.
It was the bank account.
Well, it's all a package. You know, she's an attractive lady, right?
Yes, she is.
She's a very attractive lady, well-spoken. Do you think that if she was an unattractive lady and not well-spoken, you would have been attracted to her? No. You may have gotten to know her better and said, gee, she's got a wonderful soul. But what attracted you to her initially was she's a pretty lady, she seems intelligent, and she's well-spoken, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Part of your package is that you had some dough. That's it. You just have to accept that. And you know, I'm not such a genius that I figured this out myself, because Donald Trump's wife was interviewed recently, and they said to her, would you be married to him if he wasn't Donald Trump, if he wasn't who he is? And she said, you think he'd be married to me if I didn't look like this? Do yourself a big favor. Put a period. It didn't work out. You both gave it your best shot. You should not have called a probation officer. It was a nasty thing to do. And you should not have waited to see the result of this counseling before you decided that what she did was criminal, because then I find your motives suspect.
The reason we actually separated was in August. I told her that her drinking had become a problem, and if she didn't stop drinking, we were not going to renew the lease and live together.
But even after that, you went to counseling with her, because according to you, you loved her.
I did love her.
What I'm telling you is, it didn't work out. That's very sad. Looks like a nice guy. I hope you find another nice one.
She's engaged to another guy already.
Well, then you should look up and say, thank you, God, I didn't make a mistake. Right? Instead of suing her. The case is dismissed, sir. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Juliet Basasio is suing her ex-boyfriend, Omar Pierce, for unpaid rent and a security deposit. Omar says Juliet is angry that he went back to his wife.
Ms. Basasio, this very unhappy gentleman who's standing next to you, Mr. Pierce, used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
Even though he was married. And you have a child together.
Yes.
mistake number 2. And it is your claim that the two of you leased an apartment for 6 months because you claim Mr. Pierce wanted to move out of your parents' home where the two of you were living with your baby and have a place of your own. You signed the 6 months lease. He didn't really hold up his end of the rent, which you had agreed to, and then he moved out, leaving you stuck with the lease. Mr. Pierce says that you couldn't rip him from the heart of his wife and 2 sons, and that he decided to go home, and that he paid rent while he lived there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did I explain your position, sir?
No, I don't owe any of the money.
What?
I don't owe any money.
Oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. When did he live in your parents' house?
The first time he moved in was in May.
Of 2006?
Yes.
How old is your baby?
He's 2.5. He'll be 3 in October.
Is that your only child?
Yes.
Why would you have a baby with somebody who's married?
Because he lied and told me he wasn't married. He told me he had just separated and he was divorced from his wife 6 months prior to when I met him.
He said he was separated or divorced?
The same difference. He said...
No, it's not the same difference. Separated is not divorced.
At first, he didn't have a wife. I would have never went with him if he told me that he was married.
And when did he finally tell you he was married?
He never did. He never told me that he was married. I had to find out from his wife that he was married. And it was after I had my son.
Was he living with you?
No, he wasn't.
Why wasn't he living with you?
I don't know.
Did you ask him why we're not living together?
No.
Did you ask him why we're not married?
No, he knows that I wouldn't want to marry him. I told him, I don't want to get married. Why do I need to get married? If I live with somebody, why would I need to get married?
Well, why if you're fighting with somebody? You're right, you shouldn't marry somebody you're fighting with, right? You also shouldn't make a baby with them.
That was before I found out that he was married.
What difference does it make if he's married or not? If you don't want to get married and you're not getting along with him.
We were not fighting before that. Everything was fine before that. There was no fighting or nothing.
You mean everything was fine until you got pregnant?
Yes. Well, he was okay up until the month I had my baby.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a receiving clerk.
Where?
I don't want to say.
In what city?
In San Marcos.
How long have you been a shipping clerk for the company that you work for now?
Close to a year.
And before that, where did you work?
Oh, I didn't work.
Huh?
I didn't work. Oh, I did work, but in numerous places.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
I work in the emergency room.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
She works in a hospital, I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
Why I see her go there. I mean, yeah, she works in a hospital. Excuse me, I don't want to be...
Yeah, don't be a smart aleck, sir. You know, you're having trouble just keeping your head above water here. And what prompted you to decide to get an apartment with him? Because now you're living with your parents and your son, right? Everything is nice. The baby has some stability, live at home, so he's got grandparents, nice. Now you know he's married. And he says, let's get an apartment together.
He's the father of my child. I'm going to give him a chance. If I'm going to want him in my son's life, I'm going to give him that chance. He told me that he was in the process already of divorcing his wife. 2 weeks before we signed our lease, before we were going to move in together, he told me that his divorce was going to be final. That obviously
So you signed the lease. Can I see the lease, please?
Yes, you may.
November of 2006 is when you started. When did he move out?
In January of 2007.
So he lived there with you for 2 months, right?
Yes.
What?
We moved in October, and I gave her rent for October.
It says that the rent is due the first date of each month beginning November 2nd.
Thank you. It's November.
Your lease started November 2nd,
Yes.
2006. Why did you move out?
I went back with my wife and kids, went home.
You went back with your wife and kids. Well, what did you expect her to do with this apartment?
Well, she told me before you even moved into the place that I can go back to my family, go back, break the lease, and go back to my family.
Just a second. She what? Say it again to me,
She told
so
me-
I believe it.
She told me that I can, if it didn't work, I could break the lease.
And go back to your wife.
Yes.
Those words never came out of a woman's mouth.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Not her mouth.
Thank you, especially
Not
with
just
somebody with a kid.
Just a second. Don't it? Look at me. Those words not only didn't come out of her mouth, they didn't come out of any woman's mouth in history. If it doesn't work out between us, you can break the lease and go back to your wife.
Yeah, because she knew how I felt about my wife and her.
What, are you crazy? Why did you sign this lease, Mr. Pierce?
Because I wanted to be free. I thought it was going to work out between me and her.
Because what?
I wanted to be free. I wanted, because we would have fun. I thought we would be,
work out between me and Juliet.
So you wanted to have fun. You couldn't have fun in her parents' house.
We agreed to move out so we could be together.
You wanted to be free.
Yeah, well,
You wanted to be able to drink and smoke and do what you wanted to do and have a good time. You couldn't do that at her parents' house. And her parents probably looked at you like I'm looking at you and saying, why? I raised this nice girl and she brings me home a bum. Why? What happened? Mr. Pierce, you have a responsibility to pay her for the remainder of the lease, your half. Do you want me to explain why to you, sir?
No.
No?
Well, because I don't owe her any money. When I stayed there, she said that it was okay, you know, because she knew I had to support my other kids.
You know, when I was a kid, my grandmother used to tell me that, you know, God gave you a heart, one day a soul, one day you got a brain, one day you got... He was absent. He was absent. You picked the wrong day to be absent, Mr. Pierce. Listen to what I'm saying to you, sir. You have 3 children. You made 3 children. You can't afford to have 3 children. You probably can't even afford to take care of yourself. So you have to find some other hobby other than having children. That's number 1. Number 2, sir, look over here. You signed a lease. That has meaning. Whether you pay taxes or not is not my issue. Signing this contract is my issue. Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Signing this contract obligated her to pay this rent. Now, if they can't come after you because they can't find you, that is a problem. Do we understand each other, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand me loud and clear now, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. I'm glad now we understand each other, sir. So when you sign a lease for 6 months with the mother of your child and take her out of a home where she's living relatively comfortably, rent-free, and then you get an epiphany and want to be near your other baby's mother, that doesn't mean you are absolved from paying her for the rent. Do you understand, sir? If Uncle Sam can't find you, I can. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. The rent is $825. According to your complaint, he was supposed to pay $400. $400 times 4 equals $1,600. That's for the 4 months remaining on the lease after you moved out, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Goodbye. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's right.
Parties are
20-year-old Robert Aiken is suing his ex-fiancée, 22-year-old Cheryl Smith, for unpaid bills and late fees. Cheryl claims Robert is obsessed with her.
Mr. Aiken, Miss Smith was your fiancée for a period of time. I assume you lived together for a period of time. And it is your claim that you put some money into her checking account in order to pay some bills.
Correct.
You broke up, and she put a stop payment on the bills you had paid. Well,
Yeah, she did it online. She stopped all payments.
I don't understand how you do that. I like that little checkbook. You write it out, you deposit it. I don't understand the online stuff, but you want that money back.
Correct.
Ms. Smith said nothing could be farther from the truth. You put money into the account. You did pay bills with the money you put into the account. You started to pay some more bills with money that you hadn't put into the account, so she put a stop payment on those bills. She has a counterclaim. She says that at some point immediately preceding your breaking up, she covered the entire rent because you were short, so that you owe her for rent. And in addition, and more importantly, she says that since the breakup, you've been involved in some serious harassment. So the money part should be relatively easy. How much money did you put into her account?
Total, 2 checks of $420 and $316.84, so $736.84.
When?
The $420 was put in on August 12th, and the $316.84 was put in August 11th.
When had you covered the rent, Ms. Smith?
I wrote the check on August 1st.
And how much was the rent?
$662.70.
Was it your responsibility to pay the rent?
We both paid the rent. It was joint money.
Immediately prior to the 11th of August, when did you make your preceding deposit in her bank account?
I would give her cash when I got my check because she was writing all the checks for bills. So I would just cash and stuff of that nature. I have no proof of it. Sorry. I'm a hand person.
Now, he put in the $736. What bills did he pay with it?
Well, my counterclaim is I have bills that total $548.44 that I paid for him, in addition to the rent for $662.70.
It wasn't like a split right down the middle. We were
Well,
just
it
paying.
should be. It's all sounding very good for Miss Smith, Mr. Aiken. What I want to know is, did she make payments for you in the amount of $548? To whom?
She made certain bills.
To whom?
There was a $200 payment to his father.
That was to your father.
That's correct.
What, do you owe him money?
A car payment. It's in his name.
Go ahead.
$63.94 for his Comcast bill.
Uh-huh.
I also have penalties in which I was charged in order to stop the 3 payments that he was unauthorized to make.
Just a second. I want to know what the payments were that you made, not the fees. The payments were that you made.
Then without the penalties, there were bills totaling $196 made prior.
Made prior to when?
Prior to August 1st for him.
Forget it. You paid $263 that you can account for, not $548. You know, you look like butter with milk in her mouth. You know, you keep turning it around. She becomes a more interesting character. 736 minus 263, $473. That's what's left over. Now, we're going to say that he owes you half for the rent, because that's part of your counterclaim. So we're going to take off $330 from that. $143 you owe him. You got it?
Now, what about the payments that she stopped, though?
Good, she stopped them. Good, she should stop them. $143. Gets expensive when you play house. Now I want to hear about the harassment, because that troubled me. You say that he called you over 100 times in a short period of time?
That is correct.
Let me see. Why do you keep calling her, Mr.
There
Aiken?
were different occasions equaling up to it. I was trying to call her in the beginning to try to get some of the money without going to court. And then from time to time, she would be like, okay, well, I'll pay you something. And she'd be like, well, let's meet up here. And say at 1 o'clock, it'd be like 1:30, 2 o'clock. So I'd call her. She'd be like, yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. So it's just different phone calls, basically trying to resolve this money issue.
Well, but I'm looking at it.
It's just continuous.
For instance, I'm looking on the 23rd of August after another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 18 calls, one right after another.
That would just, as far as that was
Were
just...
you leaving messages on her machine?
No, I didn't leave voicemails. I left, I think, maybe one voicemail. The rest were she'd pick up the phone and then she'd hang it up, and I'd try to get back to her and talk to her, trying to...
She doesn't want to talk to you.
I understand that.
Well, but when do you start getting that message, Mr. Aiken, that she doesn't want to talk to you? If, according to you, she picks up the phone and hangs up, she doesn't want to talk to you.
I was just trying to get money, like I said, with these bills,
You
the credit
kept
cards
annoying
and
her.
cell phones. When the payments got stopped,
You
they shut off
kept
the cell
annoying
phone.
her. Since August, have there been any further calls?
Not since the personal protection order was issued.
Okay, do you have a copy of that?
Absolutely.
Let me see. Was it a permanent order or a temporary order?
It holds for 1 year.
So you consented to this, sir?
Yeah.
Well, if you consented to it, of necessity, the judge had to say to you, you're entitled to a trial, right?
Yeah, we showed up and had a hearing.
Oh, you had a hearing, so the judge found you guilty of harassing her.
Yeah, I told him the story, and I told him the phone calls, and he gave it to her.
Okay, but after that, you stopped.
Yeah, I have not contacted her since.
Anything else you want to tell me about your counterclaim, Ms. Smith?
Yes. As far as for the harassment, this has seriously been going on for a long time. Numerous phone calls and numerous times showing up at my place of employment, numerous times threatening my child, numerous times threatening me. He's physically assaulted me.
After he physically assaulted you, did you remain in the relationship?
No.
When, according to you, was the first time that he physically became violent with you?
On August 7th.
So that was about the time that you were breaking up?
That is correct.
Okay, so this wasn't a history, as you indicated?
No.
Fine. And what did he do to you on the 7th?
On the 7th, he shoved me into a wall and left me captive in the closet of our apartment until I had talked to him.
I don't understand that.
Our closet is a small room. I was in there actually packing some clothes, and he stood in the doorway and refused to allow me to leave.
So he kept you captive there?
Correct.
Because he wanted to talk to you?
Correct.
He's over it. You get over it. He's finished, right?
Correct.
Going to stay away from her? Going to get you $148?
Correct.
Leave her alone?
Without question.
You made a bad choice. Put a period. Move on. Counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Peggy Price is suing her ex-boyfriend, Corey Emerson, for loans to pay rent, fix his bike, and travel to his brother's wedding. Corey says the money she gave him was never a loan.
Ms. Price, Mr. Emerson was your boyfriend for a brief period of time, and according to your complaint, you made a series of loans to him. You want your money back because he broke off the relationship. He says that he did break off the relationship. Any money that you gave him during the relationship were gifts because you cared for him. He needed the money. That's what people do who care for each other. They help each other out. And the only time it became a loan was when he broke up with you. Is that your defense, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you, Mr. Emerson?
30 years old.
Ever been married?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
Just once.
When and for how long?
I was married when I was 20 for 9 years.
You have children?
2.
How old are your children?
9 and 10.
Do you see them?
Almost every day.
So you're a good father.
I try to be, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Emerson?
I work for the railroad.
And how long have you worked for the railroad?
6.5 years.
Pay child support?
Yes, ma'am.
What about you, Miss Price? How old are you?
32.
Ever been married?
Yes.
When and for how long?
2000 until 2005.
Have any children?
2.
How old are they?
5 and 13.
Do you work?
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm self-employed hairstylist.
Children see their father?
Yes.
Do you pay child support?
He's disabled, so they get Social Security.
And your former wife, sir, what does she do?
She has an in-home daycare.
So it would be a fair statement, Mr. Emerson, to say that both of these families are sort of struggling to make ends meet financially. That be a fair statement?
I wouldn't say that I'm struggling, nor would I say she's struggling at all.
Really?
That's correct.
You think there's plenty of money to go around?
I do.
Then why would you take money from her, Mr. Emerson?
I didn't take any money.
No, listen to me, sir.
Oh.
You did take money from her. Whether it's a gift or a loan, you did take money from her, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, if these two families are in pretty much similar circumstance, why would you take money from her?
Things come up, things need to be paid. She offers to pay for those things. I wasn't going to say no.
Why not? Is my question. Why not? Would not a person with a certain moral compass say, listen, you're a working gal, you got 2 little children. I'm a working guy, I got 2 little children.
Somebody offers me money, who am I to say no?
A creep. That's who you are. Because whether I determine this was a gift or a loan, you're a creep. You're not talking about somebody who's got plenty of extra cash and says to somebody that she cares about, listen, I got a lot of extra cash. You need something, I'll help you with it. You were pretty well aware of the fact, if you were dating for a while, that she's a hard-working gal who comes home from work, takes care of her kids, does the cooking, whatever, does everything that has to be done. And you, on the other hand, who see your children every day, which is really very nice, probably have much less responsibility with regard to doing their laundry, with their appointments, with regard to doing the general stuff, what I call the grunt work, because your children do live with their mother, don't they?
Yes, ma'am.
So now we're going to decide whether you are a creep that took the money because it was a loan or a creep that took the money because it was a gift. Either way, I don't approve of your behavior. When did you start dating Mr. Emerson?
The 2nd week of May, 2006.
Tell me when and under what circumstances he asked you for the first amount of money.
He wrecked his bike, the fork broke. He said that he didn't have the money to pay for it. Sent me a text message, can you do me a huge favor? That's how all of them start.
Could you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What did it say?
I need money to pay for the fork for my bike.
Okay.
So I said under the condition that he'd make payments, whatever. Eventually, it's got to be paid back.
When did you tell him eventually he has to be paid back?
I didn't set a date. I just said, whenever you can pay me back.
Okay, so and how much was that for?
This check was for $409.81.
Okay, next.
Then he was having problems. He didn't have enough money to pay his rent. So
how did you find out about that?
He sent me a text message again asking him to help him pay his rent. And I said, how much is it? And he said it was $640 with late fees. I said, how much do you have? He said he had like $400 in the bank. And I said, I can help you out, but once again, it's, we're adding this on. So I wrote a check for $640, but he gave me $403 of it.
Go ahead.
Then he had to get home. His brother's wedding was like a month before.
He had to go to a wedding?
To Montana. And, we talked about it, and I'm like, I can help you out. If you want me to, whatever, I can help you out.
I don't want whatever. You're in court now, Miss Price. You have to be specific about what you said to him and what he said to you, and I want you to trust me on this. I know what you're making up, and I know what you're not making up.
Right.
Do you understand?
Right.
So a month later, he had a wedding?
Yes.
Where were you when he asked you for the money for the trip?
We were at a bar.
And what did he say to you?
He just said that he didn't have the money to get there. Could I help him out?
And what did you say?
I said, I can do what I can, you know, but...
And how much was that?
The plane ticket was $346.60, and the Greyhound bus that I put him on, because I waited till the last minute to get the plane ticket, and it was going to be $900. So I wasn't going to do that. I didn't have the money to do that, and he knew that. So I sent him on a Greyhound, and that was $159.
Okay, and that's it?
Yes.
And what date was that?
He left on the 1st of August and returned on the 8th.
And when did you and Mr. Emerson stop seeing each other?
He came in on the 11th, which was a Friday, at about noon.
To your salon?
My work, yes. I proceeded to give him and his son a haircut at no charge, thinking everything was okay, because we'd had no problems up till then. And I got a text message 6 hours later from him saying that we needed a break, and, you know, this wasn't working, it was moving too fast. And so we went back and forth through text messages, and I said, you know, I have the right to know why you're feeling this way. I've done everything in the relationship I've given.
And he said?
He said, since you're giving me an ultimatum, it's over.
Okay, now, Mr. Emerson, it's your turn. June. June!
June, the mountain bike. I wrecked my mountain bike. It was going to cost about $400 to fix it. I had talked with Peggy about the price, and she offered to pay for it.
What would you talk to her about the price for?
Well, we're in a relationship. We talked about, you know, I talked about wrecking my mountain bike and, you know, what it was going to be to fix it. And
why would you tell her that? Why don't you tell your ex-wife that?
Actually, I did tell my ex-wife that.
Did she give you any money?
No.
You have living parents?
Yes.
Yeah, well, your mother loves you for a longer time than the plaintiff did. Why don't you call your mother and say, I broke my spoke?
I didn't need to. The plaintiff had already offered to pay for it.
She wouldn't need to have offered to have paid for it, Mr. Emerson, if you didn't have a problem. And you wouldn't have had a problem if you called your mother or your father or your brother or your sister and said, could you loan me some money? Then you wouldn't have even had to mention it to her.
It was offered to pay for it, ma'am.
Well, what about Mr. Emerson? You need not do that. I only know you 8 weeks. And I wouldn't think of taking any money from you because I have a mother who gave birth to me. I have an ex-wife who I support along with my 2 children. I have a brother, sister, father, you know, who I've known a long time. I wouldn't think of taking money from you. How about that?
Didn't even cross my mind.
Nah, that's because you're a creep. Now, Mr. Emerson, you want to tell me what cathartic event happened between the 1st of August when you went home to your brother's wedding and the 11th of August when you had your haircut and your son's haircut for free at Miss Price's salon that caused you to send her a text message that said, we need a break?
It had been leading up to that.
I want you to tell me the cathartic event between August 1st when you left on a plane ticket that she purchased for you and when you came back on a Greyhound bus ticket that she had purchased for you that caused you to say, we need a break.
Okay, it was...
Follow my train of thought, sir.
It was big deal was the plane ticket. She tells you she's going to do something and she'll play along with the story. I'm going to do this. I've got it taken care of. Don't worry. I'll do it.
Just a second. Just a second. Let's get rid of the gobbledygook, sir. What you're complaining about is
the fact that she does not follow through.
Listen. What you're saying is she sent you home by bus instead of plane. Is that what you're telling me?
That was one of the problems, yes.
Oh, very good. Major creep. Major creep. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,154. That's all.
Marlene Lacey claims fellow motorist Sarah Rochon rammed her car during an incident of road rage. Sarah claims it was Marlene who ran into her. She is countersuing for the resulting damage.
I have a complaint and I have a counterclaim. Each of you claim road rage by the other. And Miss Lacey, you claim that the defendant assaulted you.
Yes.
The defendant denies that. So I'm used to, quite frankly, hearing about these road rage incidents with guys behind the wheel of a car. Very rarely do I see mature women who get involved with that kind of stupidity. It's very distressing. When did this happen?
March 12th of 07.
What time of the day?
3:30 p.m.
Where were you coming from or going to?
I was going to a doctor's appointment southbound on Highway 99.
Anybody in the car with you?
No.
And where were you going or coming?
I was picking up my son, going southbound on 99.
Okay, tell me what happened.
I was in the, there's a carpool lane, and then there's 3 regular lanes. Mr. Sean was a carpool because she had her daughter with her, but she was in the regular lane, and traffic was all backed up. So I was trying to get to my doctor's appointment. I rushed around her in the carpool lane,
and came back over real quick.
So you cut her off?
Well,
just a second. So you cut her off?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what
Okay.
you did. Just a second. Just a second. That's exactly what you did. You cut her off.
Okay.
Now, because there is no rule that if you have more than one person in the car, you have to drive in a carpool lane. The carpool lane merely allows you to be in that lane if you're more than one person.
Correct.
But there's no requirement that you go in a carpool lane if you're two people.
Correct.
I question you about that, Miss Lacey, because you hear that you were annoyed with her because she should have been in the carpool lane and not taking up space in the other 3 lanes where there was traffic. That's what you seem to indicate here.
Correct.
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. There are tens of thousands of cars on the road. You're complaining about this lady because she didn't want to go in a fast lane with her daughter? That's ridiculous. And then you did the wrong thing. You cut her off. Now, I haven't gotten to you yet, but we will. Because I have a feeling that both of you ladies acted very badly that day. So after you cut her off, what happened?
I proceeded down southbound 99. I took the Florin Road exit and headed eastbound. There's 2 lanes on eastbound Florin. I was in the left lane, and I noticed a couple of minutes after I exited Florin Road, I noticed in my rearview mirror Miss Rashawn in the right lane, and she comes up. She's next to my car yelling at me and calling me a few names.
She's yelling at you? What is she calling you? She's calling you bad names?
She's calling me bad names.
And what did you say to her?
I didn't say anything. I was like, you know, I was trying to get to my doctor's appointment. That's all I was trying to do. And she started calling me the B word and yelling at me for cutting her off, et cetera, et cetera. And next thing I knew, her car is over in my lane, hits my car. I'm looking, and in my lane is a tan SUV, and my first thought was, this lady is going to make me hit this SUV in front of me. So I slammed on my brakes. She had so much force on my car that she ended up over in the left lane, and I took a right onto Palmer House, right here. Mm-hmm. And I came down here. Because I wasn't sure, like I said, she was extremely upset, so I was scared to stop or anything. I got on the phone, was trying to get through to 911. She kept following me, and then I lost her, and I came back, and she was parked. So I was trying to take a picture of her license plate. So when I got through to 911, I would have the license plate number. As I was focusing in on the license plate, I had my windows down. She gets out of her car, comes up to my vehicle, to the passenger side, starts screaming and yelling at me on how I hit her car, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, no, I didn't. Next thing I knew, she reaches in through the passenger side window, grabs my purse out of my car, and I was in shock. I was like, wait a minute, that's stealing, that's my purse. So I get out of my car, I go around the back of my car, and she dumps my purse and throws everything on the ground. And I go to pick it up, and she rushes me, scratches me and everything. She is just going at me. And I was in shock, and I believe, excuse my language, but I think I said, what the F, that's assault? And she goes, no, your boyfriend beats you up. I'm like, oh, is that the way we play the game? And then she continues with these 2 gentlemen came out, pulled her off of me. I asked them if they would stick around and talk to the police. They said no. I went to pick up my belongings off of the ground, and when I went to stand back up, she pushes me. I didn't have a chance to brace myself or anything. I fell back, and my head hit the street, twisted my ankle, bruise on my right arm, everything's on the right side. Again, I get back up and start trying to retrieve my stuff again, and that's when the officer pulled up.
Okay, your version.
That was totally a lie.
Your version.
My version is, we were southbound on 99 on our way to pick up my son. We were in the carpool lane. She's tailgating me. My daughter noticed that.
Don't tell me what anybody else knows.
Okay,
what happened from your perspective?
Okay, she went around on the shoulder to get around me. I wasn't in the number 2 lane. I was in the number 1 lane. She went around on the shoulder, started driving wildly. She was weaving in and out of traffic, got back in the carpool lane. I exited off the freeway. My daughter noticed when we were over the overpass. She said, the same car is getting off the freeway. Is that hers? I said, I don't know. So we were driving east on Florin, and then all of a sudden, I saw a car driving up fast behind me. So I moved over to the right lane, and lo and behold, bam, she crashes right into me.
Where was the damage to your car?
Got pictures right here.
Let's see it.
And you can
You have
tell.
pictures of the damage to your car?
Yes.
And she hit me.
Shh. Why don't I have any pictures of the front of either of these cars?
Because I didn't hit her. She hit me. She's claiming.
I said, why don't I have any pictures of the front of either of these cars?
Because there was no damage in the front of my car.
But if I had a picture of that, it would have been helpful.
Okay.
Because she sideswiped me. She didn't.
I did not sideswipe you.
No. This car looks to me as if this is where the impact was in the
That's
front.
her tire marks.
That's where she
Her
crashed
tire
into
was-
me.
Well-
And then you can see on my picture
The
where she
dam-
stayed on my...
Shh. The damage to her car is mostly on the side.
Right.
Damage to your car, mostly over here. Okay, so she hits your car, and?
She tried to veer me to the right into a ditch. Why I had a picture of the ditch there. And then I managed to get ahead of her, so I passed the light, but she went to the right on Palmer House and tried to run from me. So I was like, she's not going to run from me. So I ended up backing up in the street and following her down the street. And she made a U-turn in someone's driveway. I came around behind her. She backed up and just crashed right into the back of my car. You could see the dent by the gas tank there. And then she managed to drive back down the street, went into a church parking lot. She did a donut in there, and I got a picture of the marks on the ground there, if you look at the picture. And she was heading straight for me like she wanted to play chicken. So I was like, this lady has no regard for me and my daughter. And first of all, why would I even hit her with my daughter in the car?
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at the police reports, please.
And I'm a commercial truck driver, so why would I want to ruin my driving record? That's my livelihood. I am a Class A truck driver, so I have no reason to be crashing into anybody.
You told the police that after you took the pocketbook out of her car, which you acknowledged that you did, which was the wrong thing to do, you understand, that she slapped you.
Yes.
Where did she slap you?
Right here on the right side of my cheek.
And that's when you hit her?
Yes.
You have photographs of your injuries?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them, please. You hurt her pretty badly, madam. You hurt her pretty badly. That's unreasonable.
She hit me.
I'm not sure about that. No, you say she slapped you. I believe that, but you assaulted her.
She hit me first.
No, I don't believe that. Not only don't I believe it, but even if she slapped you in the face after you took her purse, she's allowed to do that.
Well, I didn't steal her purse.
Yes, you did.
I grabbed it, yes.
Yes, you did. You stole her purse. The purpose of your removing it was not to steal its contents, was to make sure that you had identifying information about her because she was leaving. You could have had the same identifying information by just taking down her license plate number. You chose not to do that. You committed a felony. You reached into her car and took her purse. You lost your temper. That's a felony.
Well, anybody would under the circumstances.
No, my dear.
Well, not stealing the purse, but I was
done it.
hot.
I would have stayed in my car until a police officer came. I would have locked my doors, rolled up my windows,
I called
and said,
911.
You may have called 911, but you stay in your car, especially when you have your daughter with you. You don't know what kind of nut this is. All you did was say to me, this person was driving erratically. That's what you said to me. She cut me off. She rammed my car. And instead of sitting in your car and protecting your daughter, you got out of the car and stole a pocketbook.
Actually, I got out of the car to estimate my damages, and she drove up alongside of me, started yelling at me.
So what? So, further proof.
But I was away from her.
You weren't away from her. You walked up to her car and reached into her bag. You can't do that. You understand that? Yeah, good. I'm glad you understand it. And you should be more responsible if you have your child with you. Now, go ahead.
I also asked her if she was on medication, and she said she was.
It's very possible. And if she told you she was on medication, I mean, I know that you didn't ask it in a calm way, because if somebody rams your car, as she rammed your car, you're not calm. So you probably said, what are you on?
No, I asked her, are you on any medication?
And she said?
Yes, I am.
Was that before or after you assaulted her?
That was before.
You got me? In any event, you have medical bills?
I actually don't have medical bills, except for like my prescriptions, so like $60 for prescriptions.
Okay.
I also have a report from, because there's more injuries than the pictures, because when I fell, my head hit the
I'd
ground.
like to see it.
So there's
I didn't cause her to hit her head. She did that on her own.
Medical report.
And my daughter can witness to that.
I'm not going to call your daughter as a witness.
Okay.
I think you put her through quite enough.
Marlene Lacey is accusing fellow motorist Sarah Roshan of ramming her car during an incident of road rage.
What?
It says in the police report that there's no visual marks on her face. She said,
No, I read that there were no visual marks. She was not injured. No, I understand that.
Okay.
I do believe, however, that you damaged her car.
Okay.
I think that she lost it, and I think that you behaved very badly that day, Miss Lacey.
Okay.
Very badly. I think that you were in a rush to get to a doctor's appointment, and you were driving erratically on the road in order to do that. You placed a lot of people's lives in jeopardy, because that's what... You practically acknowledged that in your statement, but she's not allowed to lose her temper and assault you. Now, you were banged up.
Yes.
You were banged up. I'm awarding you $3,500 in fees for your pain and suffering,
Okay.
medical bills, whatever they were.
Okay.
I'm awarding her $3,500 on her counterclaim to fix her car for the damage that you caused.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That means each of you gets nothing. That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Alice Ramos is suing neighbor D'Angelo Trent for damages to her car. Alice says D'Angelo's son, 9-year-old D'Angelo Jr., crashed into her vehicle with his bike.
Mrs. Ramos, it is your complaint that this little boy right over here was on his bicycle, fell off of his bicycle, and scratched your car. You want his father to pay for the scratch on the car. Is that right? And Mr. Trent's chance. When did this happen?
June 19th of 2004.
Were you at home at the time?
Yes, it was a Saturday. We had had a yard sale at my residence, and this child here had been riding his bicycle the better part of the day, up and down.
What's your name?
D'Angelo Trent Jr.
D'Angelo.
Yes.
Did you know him before?
I've seen him
June
in the
19th?
neighborhood, but I didn't know whose child he was.
But you had seen him before?
Oh, yes.
For how long?
He's lived in our neighborhood as long as I can recall.
So you know him. This is
Right.
the child who you hadn't seen 100 times before.
Oh, definitely.
Alice Ramos says neighbor 9-year-old D'Angelo Trent Jr. damaged her car when he crashed his bicycle. D'Angelo's father, D'Angelo Sr., claims his son doesn't own a bike.
So what did you see when he fell off the bike?
He bumped into the bumper of my car, and he fell off his bicycle. At that point, I was not concerned about my car. Myself, my nephew Andrew, and my niece all ran out to the street to see if he was okay. He seemed okay, but he fell awfully hard for how quickly he jumped back up.
And subsequently you found a scratch on your car?
When we first checked, we saw what looked like rubber scraping on the bumper of the car. And I told the little boy, before he took off, I told him, that's okay, this can be buffed out, you can go. So he jumped on his bike and he took off, more scared than hurt, I think. And 10 minutes later, he comes back with another young man on the handlebars. And he and his friend got off, and he started to show the friend what he had done. Well, unbeknownst to us, we were more concerned in the beginning about his welfare. We didn't really inspect the car. I saw the rubber scrapes on the bumper. But he's showing him another area of the car which we had not seen. And there is a scrape on the trunk.
You have a picture of it?
No, I don't.
Why don't you have a picture of it?
As I go on to the story, you'll see why.
Okay.
There was a good gash to where the whole paint and primer, everything came off right down to the metal. And it was right at the height about where the handlebars are.
So what did you do next?
I said, did you do this with your bike? And he said, he nodded his head yes. I said, well, then you can't leave. I need to talk to you. He looked at me wide-eyed, scared, started to cry, jumped back on his bike, and took off, and left his little friend there. I asked his friend, do you know who this little boy is? I've seen him in the neighborhood many times, but I don't know who he is. And he says, yes, that's D'Angelo's son. And I said, D'Angelo, I know D'Angelo. I've known D'Angelo, the father, since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, since he grew up in the neighborhood. So I said, can you take me to his house? So he walked.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Ms. Ramos, did Mr. D'Angelo say that he would take care of the problem?
Absolutely.
And that's why you had it fixed and you didn't take a picture? I'm just running ahead because that sounds like what you're going to tell me.
Yeah, I didn't take a picture because I had to call the police because we could not locate him, the father.
Why?
Because there was no one at the house. The house was all opened up, windows, doors, everything was opened up at the house. There was nobody there.
Okay, so when the police came, he said he would fix...
He told the police officers he would take care of it between me and him.
Okay, stop. And you had it fixed. How much did it cost you to have it fixed?
$300.
You have a receipt?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
He was there.
He was there.
How long have you known Mrs. Ramos?
22 years.
She a nice lady?
Nice lady.
Seems like a lovely lady.
Yeah.
Seems like a caring lady. Is concerned about your son?
Right.
More concerned about your son than her car?
Right.
Why don't you pay her the $300?
Because my son doesn't own a bike. He was on the peg.
He was riding a bike that day. Now, Mr. Trent, you seem like an intelligent man, sir.
I am.
If you had to make a choice as to whether Mrs. Ramos or your 9-year-old son was telling you the truth, who would you pick? Who would you pick, sir? I haven't even spoken to him. I know who I would pick.
I know the child that was riding the bike, and I know he's nowhere in court.
Listen
so I
to
don't
me,
know why my
sir.
son's here.
You weren't there. Mrs. Ramos, who you've known for 22 years,
Right.
says that your son was the one who was riding the bike. You weren't home. So I'm going to go back to my original question. If you had to make a choice as to whether your 9-year-old son, D'Angelo, was telling the truth or Mrs. Ramos was telling the truth, who would you pick?
I would pick my son, of course.
Well, then you would pick wrong. Your son, and you weren't there, was riding the bike. Look at me, D'Angelo. Isn't that right?
No.
Baloney.
Judge, when you ask her if there were two people there was a person riding and he was on the pegs.
No.
Please ask her.
She said he was riding the bike. Is that what you told me?
That's right.
Was there 2 children there?
No. When the incident happened, there was only one child on the bike.
When he
D'Angelo
came
Jr.
back, she said there were 2 people. He was riding and there was another child on the handlebars. And then when she went out there and confronted them, he got scared and left the other kid there. And if he's not telling you that story,
The other child
I
told me
take
the
him out to
story.
the barn. Judgment to the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Eric Kim claims former friend Patricia Davis owes for car rental fees and the cost to repair her computer. Eric claims Patricia used him.
Mr. Kim, how did you meet the defendant?
I met her over the internet, over a dating service, Match.com.
And when was your first face-to-face meeting?
We exchanged phone numbers and talked, and then she needed some computer services, and I had my own computer business, so we met a couple weeks after that.
Where?
At her house.
But you were going there really for social reasons. Is that right, sir?
Social and professional.
Social.
Well,
Don't listen,
yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes.
Let's understand each other. I read your complaint very carefully.
Okay.
Your complaint alleges the following, sir. That she owes you for computer services that she agreed to pay you for. More importantly, according to you, she sort of conned you into renting a car for her for a day, and she kept the car for a couple of weeks, and you want her to pay the cost of the car. Ms. Davis says that you were a very generous fellow, you fixed her computer because you were a nice guy and you were interested in her, and you rented her a car, right?
I didn't take advantage of him. No.
Listen, when you have a legitimate case, don't muck it up with nonsense.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Kim? You didn't meet her online because she was looking for a repairman.
No, she wasn't.
You met her online through a dating service because you were looking for a date.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not the way you get your business, right?
Nope.
So you went to her house, Mr. Kim, for the purpose of meeting her in person.
True.
Now, You knocked at the door, you rang the bell, and she answered the door, and you went, aha. Right?
Yes, I did.
Good. And you went inside, and what happened when you went inside, Mr. Kim?
I looked around, and she had a very nice place.
Good. Did you have a meal? Did she offer you a drink? Did she offer you a cup of coffee? Did you go out? What did you do?
We just talked, and she mentioned that she saw...
You were talking. Miss Davis, are you accustomed to inviting people over to your house that you meet on the internet? Don't you know that that's dangerous, madam?
No,
Almost not an answer.
I don't usually, I usually do not invite people over to my home.
Well, why did you invite Mr. Kim?
Well, we had chatted online several times and talked on the phone several times before we finally connected, and I felt it was safe. He told me he had a computer business. I did do a search online, and I did see his business online, so it wasn't like I was inviting some axe murderer over to my house.
Well, you don't know that. He may have been an axe murderer with a computer business.
Could have been.
Don't speak. Did you go out, or did he stay in your house?
He stayed in my house.
For how long?
Probably about 2 hours.
What were you doing in the house for 2 hours?
He was fixing my computer and then hooking up my wireless.
Did you ever see him again?
The second time when he rented me the car.
When did he come to your house and fix the computer?
What date was it? January? I don't even know.
November.
November.
Mr. Kim, what date did you go to her house?
November 5th, 2005.
Okay. Now, she said you were there for a couple of hours. You worked on her computer. When you left, Mr. Kim, can I see a copy of the bill you left her for the repairs of her computer? Thank you. This is dated December 15th, sir.
Well,
I asked you, listen to my question.
Yes, ma'am.
My question was a very specific one, Mr. Kim.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to see a copy of the bill you left for Miss Davis on November the 5th. And the answer is, Mr. Kim, you did not leave her a bill.
That's true.
You generated a bill on December 15th, right?
Right.
Was that before or after you rented a car for her?
That was before.
When did you rent the car for her?
November 9th through the 17th.
Listen to my question very carefully, Mr. Kim. I said to you, did you generate this bill before or after you rented the car for her?
It's after.
Right. So between the time you fixed this computer allegedly for money and the time you rented the car for her, you did not generate a bill.
No, ma'am.
How long have you been in the computer business, Mr. Kim?
About 5 or 6 years.
When you fix a computer, sir, do you generate a bill within the first day, 2 days, 3 days?
Right after I finished the job.
Right. Okay. So now, Mr. Kim, I'm giving you back this bill.
Okay.
Is this a friend of yours, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
He's going to tell you what you can do with it.
Okay.
So let's just forget about the computer part of it, with what I consider the potential legitimate case that we have here, which is the fact that Miss Davis took advantage of your generosity when you offered to rent a car for her for a day. Now, how did this car business come about, Mr. Kim?
She explained that she needed a car to see a friend of hers in Oakland, and I said that I would rent it for her.
Why?
Because her credit was bad.
She told you that?
Yes.
I didn't say my credit was bad. My credit cards were maxed out.
Okay. Who's in Oakland?
My ex-boyfriend.
Was he an ex-boyfriend then?
Yes.
So what were you going to visit him for?
He had surgery on his ankle.
This isn't the ex-boyfriend,
No.
is it? Who is this?
Thomas Greenwood. He's my friend. He's my... He
has a car.
Yeah. He was a witness to...
What?
They didn't catch it, but I caught that one.
Listen to me. She called and said she needed a car for a day, so you agreed to rent a car for her for a day. What happened, Mr. Kim?
She promised that she would return it, paying for the amount for the rent the next day, and that was what we agreed upon.
What date did you go to Oakland?
The 8th or the 9th of November.
So what happened?
I went there and I saw my friend, and I stayed there for a couple of days, and then I came back to my house, and then back to the Bay Area again a few more times. And then all of a sudden, the police show up at my house. And I was in bed asleep, and they, I didn't lock my door because I live in a nice neighborhood. I didn't think I had anything to worry about. And I hear this, when I'm 12, all those CB radios and stuff. And I wake up, and they have, guns drawn on me. And I said, what's going on? They're all, we're here for the stolen car. I said, stolen car? There's no stolen car. And they said, We have a report that there's a stolen car here.
Mr. Kim, how many times did you try to reach her between the 8th of November and what day, the 16th?
Yes, at least 4 times a day.
Did you leave any messages?
The message box was full.
What do you do for a living, Miss Davis?
A receptionist for a doctor's office.
For how long?
6 years.
Same doctor?
Same doctor.
What kind of doctor is it?
Podiatrist.
You have any children?
1.
Where's that child live?
Half the time with me and the other half with her father.
Okay. Now you can stand up. Who are you?
I'm her friend. I guess I get to handle the axe murderers.
How long have you known the defendant?
About 7 years.
Have you ever met Mr. Kim?
Yes, I have.
When?
The day that he came over to do the repairs on the computer.
Tell me about that meeting.
It was formal. I tried to stay away from them. He was working on the computer. I was just there to, lend support. I was over visiting my friend.
So she wasn't there alone?
Correct.
When Mr. Kim came over?
Yes.
Very nice. So what do you know about this car, sir?
Only that they agreed to...
Don't tell me what they agreed, sir, unless you were there when the agreement was made.
Well, they talked about renting the car at that point.
They did?
Yes.
Tell me what you heard.
I don't recall who brought it up. I just, the fact that she didn't have a vehicle and that they had problems, getting a hold of each other. He was offering and she was, lending it to be known that,
Sit down. Why would people come on national television to make a fool of themselves? You don't want to say anything, do you?
No, ma'am.
Perfect.
I could.
Can I say something?
Shh. You see, Miss Davis, when you come to court, you have to file papers. Paper that you filed was an answer. In order to be a good witness, you have to remember what you file in an answer. Do you understand?
Correct.
And you have to be very careful because the judge is usually smarter than you are.
Right.
In this case, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
So, in this case, what you said was, I was having trouble getting around, and he volunteered to let me have a car, and he volunteered to rent it for me, so it would be easy for me to get around. So that when I said to you specifically, very quickly, so that you didn't have time to think, who was in Oakland? Because that you didn't mention in your answer.
No.
No. He mentioned it in his complaint. He said you had somebody that you had to see in Oakland that you needed to rent a car for a day.
But I have guys help me out all the time. I've had a guy buy me a BMW before.
Well, you must know how to do something right, Miss Davis.
I
Nobody
do.
ever bought me a BMW. How much was the car?
$11.77 and 45 cents.
Now, Mr. Kim, you picked somebody that you hardly knew, right?
Yes.
That told you that she had maxed out credit cards, or according to bad credit, whichever one. You're a businessman. You're a businessman. I mean, maybe you thought you were going to get some of the benefits of the BMW guy, but that doesn't mean that you lay out the credit card first, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1177.45. That's all.
22-year-old Chris Hopkins is suing his former friend, 22-year-old Corey Ferris, for veterinary bills. Chris claims Corey got his dog drunk during a party.
Bird, what kind of cases do I hate?
You hate cases where people are drunk.
Yes!
But they look nice.
Well, they're at least dressed. They put on ties. They're neat drunks. But they're college students. Is that right?
That's right, Your Honor.
I have a couple of questions before I get into this dumb drunk case. What school do you go to?
University of Georgia.
And what year are you in?
I'm about to graduate in the fall.
You know what the tuition is?
I think it's about $3,000 a year.
Do you live on campus?
I do not live on campus. I live just off campus in a house.
And rent on the house for you, your share?
$650 a month.
Take your hands out of your pockets. How old are you?
I'm 22 years old.
Okay. Do you go to school full time?
I do.
Do you work?
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for Miller Brewing Company.
And how much did you earn last year?
Approximately $7,000 last year.
Okay. So, pocket money.
Yes.
And who's footing the bill for this tuition?
My father.
Now, you, Mr. Ferris.
Yes.
You have about the same expenses, sir?
Maybe a little less, but pretty much. Except for I don't pay tuition, I have a scholarship.
Okay. Do you work?
It's
not an answer.
Didn't work, I just graduated in May.
Okay, so who supported you while you were going to college?
Well, mostly my dad.
Good. Now, According to your complaint, Mr. Hopkins, you were having a party at your house.
That's correct, Your
At
Honor.
your rental house.
No, it's owned.
By whom?
By me.
You own the house.
That's correct.
Where you live.
That's right.
Good. How did you save up enough money to buy this house?
My grandmother left me money, Your Honor.
So you took your grandmother's money.
That's
Let
correct.
me understand something. You took your
And I
grandmother.
invested it.
Listen to me. You took your grandmother's money and you invested in a house.
That's right.
Where you charge rent to other people.
That's correct.
And you have parties where there's a lot of drinking.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, according to your complaint, Mr. Hopkins, you had one of those wild parties where everybody was drinking, and you have a dog.
Right.
And it is your complaint that Mr. Farris fed your dog alcohol, as a result of which your dog got sick. And in addition, after your dog got sick, and because Mr. Farris and others had thrown their glass beer bottles in the yard, there was broken glass, and your dog also got glass in his paw, and you had a vet bill of almost $1,000 between the dog being inebriated and the paw that had to be cleaned up and stitched.
Almost perfectly correct.
It's close enough for your purposes, sir. Now, the first thing that you said that's irritating me is that your father spends a lot of money for school for you, and this drunk business always struck me as being stupid, even when my own children were involved in it when they were in college. I always resented paying for a 4-year party. But what really irritates me about you, Mr. Hopkins, is that I'm sure that your grandmother was somebody who saved her money and was very careful with her money.
Yes, Your Honor.
And when she left you that money, I'm sure what she wanted you to do was to be careful, cautious, and respectful of this little legacy that she left you. And you bought a house and proceeded to throw parties and probably trash it.
That's not correct, Your Honor.
Well, how many college kids live in your house, sir?
2. Myself and one other.
And how many parties did he have last year, Mr. Farris, at his house?
Countless.
Countless. Got it. So that's my problem with you.
We have very clean parties, Your Honor.
What?
We have very clean parties, Your Honor. We're responsible.
Mr. Hopkins, don't play with me.
I'm not playing with you.
Good. If you're not playing with me, then don't talk to me unless I'm talking to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now we'll get to you, Mr. Farris, because you acknowledge in your answer, ply the dog with alcohol. You're going to tell me why, because Bird is really interested to know why you would give a dog alcohol.
Well, I didn't give it to him at first. I was drinking it out of one of those Dixie cups and it was sitting on the floor next to my chair. And the dog came up and started drinking it himself. So I figured, you know, this dog is clearly an alcoholic. So I fed him maybe 10 ounces of beer. Could not have gotten him drunk. It was
Listen to me,
very
Mr.
small
Farris.
amount.
Put your hand down. I didn't ask you anything. Mr. Farris, your defense, as far as I can understand it, sir, is that you gave the dog alcohol, but not more than, according to your answer, 12 ounces of alcohol, which could not have made this dog drunk. Being a veterinarian, I don't think you can make that judgment. But your defense really is that there were other people also giving the dog alcohol, so if the dog got sick, it was a cumulative effect, therefore you should not be responsible. That is your defense, is that right?
Not only that, but I don't see why I should be responsible, period, because, especially for the dog cutting his foot, I don't see how that has anything to do with me.
I'm talking to you about alcohol, sir.
All right.
And I have other important cases to do today, other than drunk cases, which I don't like to begin with. So I'm going to give you a quick analogy. Let's say on a Saturday night late, you're walking in the street and you're walking alone, and a group of 3 thugs come up and surround you and demand your wallet. The 3 of them then take out knives and start to stab you, and you are critically injured. The police catch one of them. The other 2 get away. Put your hand down. If the perpetrator said, I wasn't the only one to stab him, and therefore you can't charge me with stabbing him critically because there were 2 other people involved. Do you know what the justice system says to you?
What if the guy testified against the other 2 and they gave him a lesser...
Listen to me. Don't change my fact pattern, sir.
All right.
This is my party. This is my playpen. The fact that you were dumb enough to feed this dog alcohol, causing the dog to get sick, makes you totally and completely responsible. And if there were other morons like you at the party, sue them. You're free to do that. You're even free to bring those people before me, sir.
Okay.
I can deal with them. As far as you're concerned, you're the donkey, and the tail is on you. You fed him alcohol. You're responsible. Now, what were your medical bills?
$967.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $967. Do me a favor, no more drunk cases today.
26-year-old Laura Joza is suing bar patron 22-year-old Jason Witzel for the cost to fix her car. Laura claims Jason body slammed his friend into the vehicle.
Ms. Jozo, the defendant, you believe, damaged your car while he was drunk in a parking lot of a bar. Your car at that time had been driven to work by your boyfriend. Is this the boyfriend?
Right.
You were not present when this happened.
I was not.
Were you present?
Yes, I was.
Step up, please. On what date did this incident happen with her car?
This was 1 o'clock in the morning on March 4th.
What's the name of the bar where you work?
It's called Little Pedro's. It's
What do you
on,
do there?
I work the front door, and my car was basically parked about 20 feet away from me.
Her car?
Or we live together. It's our car.
It's registered
just
in my name, but our car.
It's titled in your name?
It is.
And you are not married?
Well,
we've been living together 7 years, kind of. I don't know if that makes it.
Doesn't make it.
No. Well,
by my standards, but yeah, anyway. Go ahead.
Doesn't make it. So it's your car?
My car.
Tell me what you observed, sir.
Well, basically what happened, he came out of the club, and as he came out, I can kind of tell him and his friends were a little riled up. I guess having a good time, but a little agitated for some reason. They walked down the way, and they actually were right in the side of my car. And all of a sudden, they just escalated into them wrestling each other. And at that moment, when I seen them wrestling, I was starting to walk over there. And as soon as I started going out of the door to go over there, he grabbed his friend that he was wrestling and slammed him into my vehicle. So I ran over there. As I was grabbing him, he swung, missed me, struck his friend right in the nose, was bleeding all over the place. And then I told him, you know, they're not coming into the club, that they're done. You guys definitely are over it. But about 10, 15 minutes later, I guess I was so adrenaline rushed at the time, I didn't notice that my car was damaged. And I looked, and I could see it in the light reflecting off the side of the vehicle that it was damaged right where they fell into it. So then I looked around.
Well, they didn't fall into it. According to you, Mr. Witzel body slammed his
friend into the car. He slammed his friend into the car, and his friend fell with his back onto the vehicle, and they both collided into the car with both of theirs force.
Got it. Okay.
And then what happened after that, he said he was going to be compliant with it. We filled out an incident report from the club that he signed, stating what happened, you know, what time, and all this.
Can I see it, please?
Sure. We also have pictures of the damage, if you'd like that.
I would.
Also have the insurance information that he gave us.
That was actually another kind of a weird thing. Insurance card that he stated that it was his insurance, but it was actually just his AAA service.
He can't have insurance for this.
Yeah, I know,
they
but
don't
that's...
give insurance for this. This incident report indicates that Jason, that would be you, is that right? Was so drunk he couldn't even write his name or number. So, let me hear you.
Well, I was already kind of kicked out of the bar because I had too much to drink.
Yeah.
And I was sitting outside waiting for my friends.
Yeah.
And there was probably maybe like 50 to 60 people outside.
Yeah.
And where he was, from where his car was, he couldn't have seen what happened.
How do you know what he saw, sir? You were drunk.
Because he was standing inside of the door.
I was not
It's just don't speak.
I mean, I did walk into the place. I saw where he was when he was, you know, taking IDs
Jason,
and whatnot.
Two things. There is a signed acknowledgement of responsibility.
Right.
That you signed.
Right.
Now, you say that you were too drunk to know anything about what you signed. That's your defense to that. Is that right?
Yeah.
And yet you're telling me you were not drunk enough.
Well,
so listen, let me finish. You were too drunk to know what you signed, but not so drunk as to be able to tell me that he couldn't have seen what he says he saw.
Okay, but the times are completely different. I was waiting outside for like 45 minutes before he even came up to me. They didn't let me back in. I had to ask him if I could get my friends to leave. And then I probably waited outside like another 30, 45 minutes before he let me back in. And then when we were walking out to leave is when he pulled me aside and said he was looking for me because something happened to his car. At that point, I didn't know what was going on. I knew nothing about the car. I don't even think he knew about the car. I think someone told him and he saw us fighting. And it was like, oh, they were probably close to it. They might as well have done it. When there were so many people out there that were walking by, anyone could have done it.
Well, that's true, but he says you did it. And you're too drunk to know what you did.
Well, of course, I'm drunk. He sees a really drunk guy signing a thing that I'm too drunk to sign. It's easy.
Do you know, Jason, what that would suggest to me?
What?
That a good life's lesson is, if you're going to drink, don't drink too much. Because if you drink too much, you really can't tell what kind of dumb thing you might do, or you can't really defend yourself when somebody says that you did something that you say you didn't do. Do you follow that?
Yeah, I follow that.
So that would be a good lesson. Go to college?
No, I'm in the Navy.
Is that where you learned how to drink?
Not necessarily.
Because you don't drink well, sir.
Well, maybe it was a long night of drinking.
Was there any reason for that?
I don't know, you start off with a few and then, I don't know, you end up having more than you expected.
That sounds stupid.
At the time, I guess it didn't.
But it does sound stupid, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds
Because now
stupid.
you're going to have to fix a car. What kind of car is it?
It's a 2005 Cadillac CTS, so it's a expensive car which is in pristine condition. It's not like I had something on it before or, you know, it's a perfect car. I have a question, too, for him. Since he says now that, you know, he didn't do it, it could have been anybody. So since we had contact with him days afterward and everything was fine, oh, yeah, we'll take care of it. Take it to my place over here. Those days you were sober, so that doesn't make any sense that, oh, you were too drunk at that, you know, that day. But then days afterward, you didn't say you didn't do it. This is the first that we hear that it could have been 50 or 60 people that did it.
But it could have, he told me it was his car, now all of a sudden it's her car.
That doesn't matter.
Just a second. What difference does that make to you?
Well, all right, after the whole incident, it got kind of fishy, you know? He called me like...
Listen, I don't want to hear you anymore. Quite frankly, when a 22-year-old gets so drunk that they don't know what they're doing, makes me nauseous. I want to gag. My gag reflex is you owe her $500. Judgment for the plaintiff.
All right.
That's all.
Thank you.
Adult movies. Todd is countersuing, claiming Kim stole money from him.
Come to order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 452 on the calendar in the matter of Cox versus Fife. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Cox, you and the defendant were in a dating relationship. Did you also live together for a period of time?
No.
According to your complaint, you made a loan to him sometime in the year 2000?
Yes.
And in addition to that, you say that after you weren't together anymore, you received a cable bill for movies.
I received the cable bill in December when we were still dating.
But he never lived with you?
No.
All right, and the cable bill you attribute to him?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me when this loan was.
The loan was November 21st.
2000?
2000.
Tell me the circumstances of the loan.
I had just received a settlement from my divorce. Todd knew I had a lot of money in my checking account. He asked me for a loan to pay off some of his debts, and he promised to pay me in February when he got his taxes back.
So you took the money out. Do you have any proof that you took the money out and gave it to him?
I have a check.
Can I see it, please? Well, this is a check made out to cash.
Right, and his name is in the memo. And also on my check register, it's got loan for Todd. And you can tell it was all written at the same time in the same ink.
Okay. Now tell me about this November 21st check, sir.
It's not mine. She didn't make a loan to me.
Well, let me ask you, if she gave you any money?
No. I have my own money.
She did not?
No, ma'am.
Why do you think she would say she did?
She's very vindictive and money hungry, but I believe she's got 2 other cases pending right now, suing her attorney for a divorce. She didn't get the money that she thought she was going to get. I believe she's also suing her dentist. And I told her I was going to end up taking her to court. She beat me to the punch.
Take her to court for your counterclaim?
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to get to that. Ms. Cox, a couple of questions I have. February came about, 2001, and he did not return the money to you. Is that right?
Correct.
Did you have discussions with him about it?
I had several telephone conversations with him, asking him when he was going to pay my money. I actually have a tape with him that he left on my recorder.
That says what?
That says he will get me my money as soon as he can, that he has a problem right now. And as soon as it gets straightened out...
I'd like to hear that.
Saved message from... This is Todd. Thursday. Didn't bother me stuff you said last week.
I can't hear that.
Didn't bother me
Can I have it close?
It's very guttural.
I understand that. Bert, can you put this on your that I am with buttons?
Everything I've said to you, every emotion I ever told you, how I felt, it was true. And it bothered me that you said what you said. Anyway, I'm working on trying to get your money to you as soon as possible. I wish I could get to you right now, but I know that's a problem. I know you need it. I'd give it to you if I had it. I don't know. I guess that's about all I wanted to say. Today's the 22nd. This is the anniversary. 5 years. I'm going to tell you that I get something settled. I straightened out. It's just money. Talk to you later. Bye.
What money are you talking about, sir?
$160 child support money that she gave me, that I owed her. She had paid a child support payment for me when we would drop my daughter off.
Why would you need to take money from her for your child support payment if you just told me that you had money?
I didn't have my checkbook with me. We had dropped her off. We were in her car. My book was in my car, and I was going to pay her later, and she said no, she'd just go ahead and write a check, and she did so. And I admitted to that, and I still haven't got her the money.
Then you would have the check for that. Is that right?
Correct.
Do you have a check for $160?
No.
Why would you make such a big deal about $160, sir? I mean, when you talked about owing her the money on the tape,
right,
you said, I would give it to you right now if I had it, but I don't have it. You just told me that you just didn't have your checkbook in the car, and she had her checkbook, so that's why she wrote it. So I would assume from that you had plenty of money to pay your child support. The problem was you didn't have the check to pay it. And here you're leaving her a message on the machine that says, I would give you the money, but I don't have it. Explain that to me.
I owed her the money. I didn't have the extra money to give her at the moment.
Well, but you just told me a moment ago, sir, that you had the money. It's just that you didn't have a checkbook.
I didn't have the cash. We split up. We were not getting along, and I didn't have the money at the time to give her.
Right. Okay. You want to proceed with these cable bill that you have?
I also have 3 bills from the cable company for adult videos that were ordered when I was not around, when I was working.
You mean he stayed at your apartment when you weren't working?
He had a key to my apartment because he house sat for me on a couple occasions because I had 2 dogs. So apparently these were watched while I was at work. We have Lewd Conduct, Volume 3, 7:30 a.m.
I don't need the titles.
Okay. They're
okay.
4 in one day, back to back.
She was with me.
I don't know about the cable bill. Forget about the cable bill, madam. You give somebody the keys to your apartment, they watch the cable. I wasn't there. I don't know whether you watched them with them, whether you didn't watch them with them. You're not talking about
Well, I have my cable bills for a whole year of what my cable's bill before he came into the picture.
Should have watched them more carefully. You're not talking about a substantial amount of money. And certainly not talking about $2,500. All right, Mr. Fife, you want to tell me, please, what you think she owes you and for what?
$1,199.96.
Tell me what it was for.
I was moving. I switched bank accounts. She wanted to open a joint account, so she went and opened it without my knowledge. I finally went ahead and signed on it. I was getting my checks cashed by a buddy of mine. I gave them to her to put in after she opened that account, and she never put it in. We split up, and I just washed it.
When did you give her that money?
That was right around Christmas, actually.
Do you have any proof of that, sir?
No, I don't.
Did he ever give you money to put into the bank for him?
In October and November, he gave me workman comp's checks. He did not have a checking account because his credit is bad. He could not open a checking account. He would give me a check to deposit in my account.
Let me see.
I would write cash and give him cash.
I didn't find the
while
bank.
he was standing right there in October and November. That is why the account was open. I told him, here's an account for you to work out of. I never wrote or deposited any money in that account. That was his account only.
She had an ATM card.
I did not. Todd, I did not.
Okay. I see the primary on the account.
I don't know why she's a primary on the account, so I'm asking you.
I'm on the primary account because he didn't have an address.
Just a second. All I'm asking you, Mr. Fife, just listen to me, sir.
Sorry.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Cox says ex-boyfriend Todd Fife owes for an unpaid loan and for running up her cable bill with adult movies. Todd says Kim watched the movies too.
Okay. I have 2 checks that she indicates are Todd's checks.
You can see they're cashed on the back, the same date.
Okay.
He was standing right next to me when those checks were presented.
So he would give you the workman's compensation check.
Correct.
You would put it in your account because they wouldn't cash his check for him?
Correct, because he had no account.
Okay, you want to show me something, sir, from your little envelope?
That's all right. No, she was talking about I had no checks. I didn't know what she was talking about. I have my workman's comp checks. It shows
no, she was saying, she said you had no checking account so that you couldn't cash your workman's comp checks unless you went to a check cashing service, I assume, where they would charge you a fee. And then you had to pay certain bills out of the joint account that I assume you opened up. That was the purpose of it.
No, the purpose of it was to open up because she wanted to buy a house. She wanted both our names on the account.
Well, it didn't work out. Certainly, if you couldn't pay your child support, the amount of $160, you weren't going to buy a house together. Sir, so I am correct that you have absolutely no proof that you gave her this last almost $2,000?
No, I don't. I said I washed it all off, and then she had been calling periodically. I told her, you know what, I'll probably just take it to court.
What was she calling periodically for?
She just calls.
Was she calling periodically and asking you for money?
No.
You mean she hasn't asked you for money?
She hadn't asked me for money, and then when I told her I was thinking about taking her to court, she had sent me a certified letter, which I laughed off.
Certified letter that said what?
That she was taking me to court.
For what?
For money that I owed her.
How much? Did it say in the certified letter?
I believe it was $2,500.
Did you respond to it?
No. I said I washed everything out. I wanted out of the relationship. I cut my losses. She was being vindictive.
Okay. Ms. Cox, in your complaint, you say that in March of 2001, you bailed him out of jail.
Yes.
Why?
Why did I bail him out of jail, or why he was in jail?
Well, a little bit of both. I mean, I'm curious. He's supposed to pay you back in February.
Correct.
Doesn't pay you back in February, the $2,500. Then
He called me at 3 in the morning, and...
What did he say at 3 in the morning?
He said, I'm in jail, you need to go get $300 and come bail me out of jail.
What was he in jail for?
Supposedly, he was in jail for not returning videotapes to a video store, and there was a warrant out for his arrest.
And that was dropped from court.
Okay. But that's what you were arrested for?
Yes, for videotape.
Okay. How much did the bail cost you?
$300.
Did he pay you back?
He did not pay me back. I got my money back directly from the court because he was trying to use the money for his court costs. I talked to the circuit clerk and told him that he owed me this additional money. She's like, honey, I'll write the check direct to you.
So you got it back?
I got my $300.
Okay, fine. You owe $2,500, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500, which is the amount of the original I consider loan, and your counterclaim's dismissed for lack of proof. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's Sue happy.
He owed me the money, and he had to pay.
She's very vindictive. She's a bitter woman.
I think he's just a scorned lover.
And now the next case.
All parties on Olinga versus Walters. Step forward, please.
Auto body repairman Harold Olinger is suing his ex-wife, 35-year-old sewer scuba diver Christy Walters, for the return of their son's belongings. Christy is countersuing for half of the boy's medical bills.
Mr. Olinger, the defendant is your former wife.
Yes.
How long have you been divorced?
12 years.
And you have a child?
Yes.
A boy?
Yes.
How old is he?
He's 13 now.
Did he live with you for a period of time?
He lived with me since he was 6 months old until he was about 9. In June of '97, I agreed with Christy to have him live there on a temporary basis, you know, so I could save some money to buy a house. Purchased the home. In December of 2000, Travis came back and lived with me.
Okay. And it is your complaint that his mother refuses to return some of his personal property.
Right.
I don't understand the defense to that, which she will explain to me. And she has a countersuit for some medical bills that she wants you to share with her.
Right.
That happened as a result of some football accident back in 2000 when he was living with her.
Right.
All right, very simply, your son is living with you now?
Yes.
Doing okay?
Yes.
Has been living with you for the past year and some months?
Yes.
Okay, does he visit with his mother?
No.
Not at all?
He saw her on Thanksgiving, but that's the only time that they've really had contact in that whole year.
Did he go to visit?
Well, Travis called her, and then I agreed because I want Travis to see her, you know. So he went over there and came back, and everything was fine, you know, with the visit and everything. And these belongings, I've actually waited the whole year, asked her several times.
Okay, but he did see his mother that one time.
Right.
Okay, what is it that you claim that Miss Walters has that belongs to Travis?
She has, of course, I don't have it right here, his skis. There's a trampoline. There's a Nintendo 64 game system with the games. There's an inner tube that for boating, you tow it behind a boat. A knee board, which is also for boating. And that's about it right there.
Okay. Now, Ms. Walters, I've read your answer very clearly, and you seem to indicate that you have this property.
Almost all of it.
With the exception of what?
The knee board and the ski biscuit. I sold it during a garage sale.
Why?
For the one fact, I'm disputing that. I haven't been able to talk to my son. He won't return my calls.
Why did you sell it during a garage sale?
Because I need the money to help pay for some of the medical bills. Those are the only 2 items that I had sold.
The rest of the things you have?
The Nintendo 64 and...
You have all of those things?
Just the trampoline.
What about his skis?
I never had any skis. He's never brought any skis over.
So what is it that you have?
Just the Nintendo 64 and the trampoline.
How big is this trampoline?
It's a very large, you know, a couple people could bounce on it.
I have a picture of it right here.
I have a picture of it also.
Okay. Had it been in your house and you sent it to her when you went to live with her?
Yes.
How did you get it there?
I took it all apart and put it in the back of the car. It comes in little pieces, you know. And then, you know, let them use it while Travis was there because it was for his use.
Fine.
Yeah.
So why can't he have his things back?
Well, the trampoline is part of my backyard now.
Not anymore.
It's buried in my backyard.
Get it out. Just like it was buried in his
Also,
backyard, he
my
took it
other
apart?
kids use it. It's been a part of our family for so long. I thought it was frivolous that he had never asked for it one time.
Well, now he wants it back. Travis wants it back. It's his trampoline.
Okay, you can
His
have it.
father said, as long as he's going to be at your house, I'm going to give you the trampoline. Now he went back to live with his father. He wants it back. So you give it to him. And the Nintendo, same thing. You said in your answer, the other kids use it. So it was part of my household. It's not part of your household. It belongs to your son. It's got to go back. It's got to go back, all of it, within 5 days. Have we taken care of that?
Well, the trampoline's been kind of abused. It's all bent. The springs are gone.
Whatever. It's an old trampoline. If you want it back,
Okay.
if you want it back, she's got to send it back to you. If you want to forget about it, forget about it. You want it back?
Yes.
Okay. In whatever condition it comes in.
Right.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. I assume that they're not going to do anything purposefully to damage it when they take it apart, but that's, I have no control over that. All right. Now let's get to the cross complaint. I have a few questions. You had a medical bill of how much?
Roughly a little over $1,000.
Okay. And that was shortly before he went back to live with his father?
Yes, correct.
Ms. Walters, how much child support do you pay to Mr. Olinger at this time for your son?
I believe $270 a month.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And you've been paying that for the last year?
Correct.
And when Travis was with his mother, how much child support were you paying to his mother?
I paid her approximately $200 a month.
I disagree with that.
How much did he pay?
He paid whenever it was reasonable for him. It was never on time or an ongoing
So that's thing. For the 4 years he lived with you?
Correct.
Now, what about for the first 9 years? How much did you pay child support?
$200 a month.
And was that paid regularly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
So my question to you, Mr. Olinger, is why don't you feel as if you should be responsible for half of his unreimbursed medical bills?
I don't have a problem with that at all, but over the 13 years, the little bit that she's talking about, I have receipts and a check right here just in 1 month at over $180 for his medicine and doctor visits because her insurance doesn't cover, he's ADH. And that's just one incident, Over the 13 years, she wasn't even there for approximately 4 years of his life in the beginning, and I've paid all the expenses for all the clothing, everything.
I'm just talking about the medical bills.
Yeah.
Has he had any unreimbursed medical bills this year while he's been living with you?
Yes.
Can I see them, please?
I have not gotten any statements from my insurance company saying so. Since I'm the one that pays the insurance, you would think I would know any of that. But we don't communicate with each other, so I wouldn't know any of this.
Have you sought reimbursement from her for any unreimbursed medical bills?
I don't want to waste the time or the energy. It's a lot easier just to pay that instead of have to go through the battle all the time.
I think that you're probably right.
Yeah.
Okay. Travis is 13 years old. You don't intend to pursue unreimbursed medical bills for him from his mother?
No.
Perfect. Then you take care of this $500 bill for his football accident and return the Nintendo and the trampoline. The court will draft an order. What else?
Well, the skis she did take, and Travis, would verify that.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Go. Be happy.
Yes.
He's with you. He's happy.
Yes.
I'm disputing that also. Since he has been with Mr. Olinger, he's got nothing but straight F's and D's, and I have report cards that he was an AB student while he was with me.
Well, then I would suggest, Ms. Walters, if you think that he is in some way being neglected as a result of the care his father is giving him, you pursue that matter. If you believe that your son is better off living with you, you pursue that action in the court process. Until it's done, you continue to send your $270 a month child support, which hardly covers half of the child's expenses. Don't expect any reimbursement from him, but if you want to keep the lines of communication open with your son, I suggest that you look hard for the skis, and if you find them, you'll return them along with the Nintendo and the trampoline. Got it? Good. Thank you.
What about the inner tube and the...
Excuse me?
The inner tube and the trampoline.
She sold them.
Right, okay.
Eyes are excused. You may step out.
Mách mẹ những cái biện pháp để phòng các căn bệnh về mắt cho bé, thì đôi mắt nó luôn là một cái bộ phận rất là quan trọng của con người nói chung và đối với bé nói riêng. Thì trong quá trình chăm sóc trẻ thì bố mẹ nên chú ý vào chăm sóc mắt cho trẻ. Ai thì cũng muốn con mình có một đôi mắt khỏe mạnh, đúng không ạ? Nếu như mà chúng ta để có một đôi mắt khỏe mạnh thì cần phải biết cách chăm sóc và cách nào để có thể cho con một đôi mắt khỏe mạnh. Bất cứ là áp dụng cách nào thì điều đầu tiên muốn cho mắt con mình khỏe mạnh thì mẹ cần bổ sung các thực phẩm chứa các cái chất dinh dưỡng để bé có thể đảm bảo không chỉ là mắt sáng mà sức khỏe của con cũng được cải thiện. Thứ hai là cho bé dùng thêm các cái thực phẩm chức năng bổ sung các cái vitamin trong điều kiện có sự cho phép của bác sĩ. Rồi đưa bé đi khám mắt định kỳ 6 đến 12 tháng trên một lần để phát hiện các cái bệnh về mắt nhanh nhất có thể. Tránh cho bé tiếp xúc với tia UV nhiều lần và cho bé học bài, đọc sách trong môi trường có đủ ánh sáng. Hạn chế cho trẻ sử dụng máy tính, điện thoại, TV. Khi con có dấu hiệu bất thường về mắt thì hãy đưa con đi khám bác sĩ ngay để có những cái biện pháp điều trị kịp thời. Nói chung là mắt nó là một cái bộ phận gọi là cực kỳ quan trọng của cơ thể con người. Và đối với bé thì bé chưa biết cách để có thể tự bảo vệ đôi mắt của mình. Nên bố mẹ hãy hướng dẫn cho con cách để có thể tự chăm sóc và bảo vệ cái đôi mắt của mình. Học tập, đọc sách hay là chơi đùa thì cũng nên phải biết có ý thức bảo vệ mắt. Học tập thì phải học ở môi trường đủ ánh sáng và không nên xem nhiều điện thoại, TV. Đó là cái đối với trẻ em đó là sẽ là cái cách phòng những cái bệnh cơ bản về mắt tốt nhất bố mẹ nhé.